Right after signing those divorce papers, you bolted straight to your ex-wife's place for one reason: to steal back your dog. But out of nowhere, you suddenly heard the secret thoughts of your aloof, Ice Queen wife. Oh, sniffle. Hubby wants the dog, but he doesn't want me. He actually wants a divorce. Hubby doesn't love me at all anymore. If hubby leaves today, I'm seriously going to go bungee jumping from the ceiling fan with a necktie. Right then, sitting there in the courtroom, you stared at the woman across the table in absolute, utter confusion. Did I just hear things? But as you looked closely, her eyes held nothing but frosty, dead cold indifference. So, you tentatively tested the waters. I'm usually the one taking care of Barnaby. After the divorce, let him stay with me. Hearing this, Seraphina replied with ice in her voice. The house, the car, the savings. I can give them all up, but you are not taking Barnaby. Wait, wah. I don't want to live anymore. What am I supposed to do without hubby? Does he not like his cool, aloof lawyer wife anymore? Hubby changed his mind so fast. What kind of wife does he even like? Hearing that desperate wail, you were absolutely certain now. This was definitely Seraphina's inner voice. Instantly, the image of your high and mighty goddess wife shattered into a million pieces in your heart. Wait, who the hell is this professional, simping crybaby? You thought for a second and said, regarding Barnaby. Stop talking about Barnaby. That stupid dog. I can be your dog too. I can even wear those black thigh highs. Even if they get ripped, I don't care. Why don't you want me? Hearing her mental breakdown, the corner of your mouth twitched wildly. Should we negotiate this in private? A massive gleam of hope flashed in Seraphina's eyes. But in the very next second, she just gave a flat, oh, turned her head, grabbed her designer bag, and got ready to leave. Oh yeah, hubby doesn't want the dog anymore. That means I have a solid chance to be hubby's puppy. As long as hubby comes home with me today. No divorce. As long as hubby likes it, I'm willing to do whatever he wants. Even bringing out the leather belt isn't completely off the table. Bonk. Let's see how that stupid dog Barnaby tries to compete with me now. And just like that, the two of you walked out of the courthouse together. However, after taking just a few steps, a sudden yelp reached your ears. You looked over and saw Seraphina limping. I sprained my ankle. Her actual voice was slightly choked, sounding like she was holding back sobs. Hey, Seraphina, you are an absolute genius. You actually had the guts to pull this off. Divorce? A divorce is impossible in this lifetime. Twisting my ankle in these 8-centimeter heels, it's definitely going to swell up instantly. When we get home, I can wear my black stockings and let hubby massage my little feet. Hubby is such a massive softy, there is no way in hell he'll ignore me. Watching Seraphina's entirely self-directed, self-acted drama play out right in front of you, the corner of your eye twitched violently. Sure enough, you had completely misunderstood this elite, legal beauty. A moment later, you sighed, crouched down, gently held her ankle, and carefully inspected the damage. It's a bit red and swollen. Let me help you to the car. What is this help nonsense? I don't want to be helped. I want hubby to carry me. A princess carry. For some reason, the exact moment you heard that thought, you completely lost your composure and let out a chuckle. Ah. Hubby looks so damn handsome when he smiles. But wait, why is hubby laughing when he sees my sprained ankle? Ugh, whatever. To win a smile from hubby, I'm willing to sprain my ankle 10 times. Honestly, 100 times wouldn't be out of the question either. In the end, feeling utterly helpless against her antics, you scooped Seraphina up in your arms. She leaned blankly against your chest, but instantly, her heart started pounding like a wild drum. Her ears involuntarily started burning up. Ah, hubby is actually carrying me. Hubby's chest feels so incredibly safe and secure. This overwhelming masculine aura, it's practically a foul. Foul play, I say. A beautiful wife simply cannot withstand this kind of intense temptation. After finally getting back home, you stood there and watched Seraphina clumsily hobble her way into the bedroom. I'm going to put on hubby's absolute favorite black stockings. Then, throw on a sexy little nightgown. I'm going to take hubby down right here, right now. Standing there in a daze while watching her back, you got this weirdly disabled, yet fiercely determined vibe radiating off of her. After waiting for a little while, Seraphina walked back out of the room. It looked like she had just taken a shower, and she was now wearing a stunning, white silk nightdress. Her pair of perfectly shaped, straight thighs were wrapped tightly in sheer black stockings. She looked exceptionally gorgeous. Seraphina, you can do this. This set of armor is absolutely flawless. Mission: conquer hubby today. Wait, why isn't hubby coming over to rub my feet, and then directly tackling me onto the sofa? Hearing this wild thought, you just pursed your lips. I'll go grab the medicinal oil for you. Come sit down. Okay. Seraphina replied out loud, keeping her face completely cold and indifferent. 2.5 minutes later, you carefully placed her foot still wrapped in that black stocking onto your lap, then gently pressed an ice pack against her swollen ankle. Ah, hubby is so good to me. Hubby's touch feels so freaking amazing. But seriously, why isn't hubby tackling me onto the sofa right now? Am I just not pretty enough today? Hearing her mind racing, you just sighed silently in your heart. Thank God for the family dog. Just as the tension peaked, Barnaby bounded over to his mom and dad, causing a massive, mood-killing ruckus. He was bouncing up and down like crazy, totally hyped. Seeing this, you freed up your hand, gave his furry head a heavy rub, and warned him, "Hey, be a good boy. Knock off the nonsense. Mommy is hurt." Surprisingly, the little guy actually seemed to understand you. Instantly, his ears drooped in guilt. He flashed Seraphina, those big, innocent puppy eyes, gently nudging her as if trying to say he was sorry. "Ah, good boy. Come let mommy give you a big hug." Saying this, Seraphina pulled the fluffy pup into her arms, softly stroking his head. But behind that sweet smile, Seraphina was internally gritting her teeth in absolute rage. "You stupid mutt. Why the heck are you ruining my romantic vibe?" Oblivious to her inner screaming, you finished rubbing her ankle, noticing the swelling had gone down a lot. You pulled your phone out, checked the time, and sighed. "Listen, I've got a class reunion dinner tonight. I gotta head out now, or I'm totally going to get stuck in rush hour." "Okay," Seraphina replied, her voice still frighteningly frosty and detached. But the very next second, her inner monologue went wild. "Are you kidding me? Between that stupid dog and me, he chose the dog. Between his classmates and me, he chose them. He won't even stay for dinner with me. What a massive jerk. Seriously, your wife is drop-dead gorgeous. Doesn't he know it's super dangerous to leave a pretty girl home all alone?" Later that night, you stumbled back home, your stomach completely full of booze. With a pounding head, you sank deep into the sofa, wondering, are we actually still getting this divorce? Just a few days ago, it genuinely felt like there was absolutely zero affection left between the two of you, which was exactly why you brought up the big D word in the first place. But now, it really seemed like she wasn't completely devoid of feelings for you. Before you could wrap your head around it, the door softly creaked open. Seraphina slowly glided into the room, sitting right down beside you. You immediately noticed she had slipped into a silky pink nightgown. It hugged every single one of her curves, absolutely perfectly. Paired with sheer black stockings, she looked like an absolute. This little outfit should definitely do the trick, right? Come on, hubby, hurry up and play some fun games with me. Seeing this bold display, you just tilted your head, your eyes completely stunned for a few seconds. "What is wrong?" "I just want to watch TV," Seraphina stated with a totally flat, emotionless face. Then, she casually reached for the remote. But a second later, you were left utterly speechless because she had grabbed the air conditioner remote instead. After you gently pointed it out, Seraphina took a closer look and finally realized her hilarious, terribly embarrassing mistake. So freaking embarrassing. Rest in peace to my dignity before the battle even began, she panicked internally. I am really trying to be seductive here. Stop shaking hands, keep it together, Seraphina. Despite her internal freakout, she pretended to be completely calm and smoothly said, "It is so hot in here. I was just turning on the AC." Saying this out loud, Seraphina started gently fanning herself with her hand. She even casually tugged at her collar, acting like she was genuinely burning up. However, you just kept your eyes glued straight ahead, not saying a single word. But on the inside, Seraphina was screaming and complaining to herself, "Why is he not even looking at me? Do guys not all like massive bouncy assets? Why does my hubby not care at all? Does he seriously want me to turn into a flat airport runway?" Hearing her loud inner thoughts, your line of sight uncontrollably shifted just a millimeter. Your Adam's apple also bobbed slightly in the heavy tension. But despite watching her perform 100 fake, alluring moves, you somehow maintained your cold rationality and flatly said, "I am going to sleep. You just keep watching TV." Seeing you stand right up to leave the room, Seraphina instantly grew a bit anxious. "Caspian!" Hearing her voice, you turned around in total confusion. "What is wrong?" you asked. Internally, she grumbled, "You are a bad dog, just like Barnaby. You have such a gorgeous wife sitting right here. Why are you not picking her up and taking her straight back to the bedroom?" Out loud, she just pouted, "Nothing. Good night." After speaking, Seraphina quickly got up and stomped back to her own bedroom, leaving you staring at her cold, totally indifferent back view. Once safely back in her room, Seraphina threw herself directly onto the mattress and buried her flushed face deeply into her soft pillows. At this exact moment, an unavoidable, crushing sense of defeat rose up within her. In a complete daze, she suddenly seemed to realize something. Then, she abruptly sat up and squeezed her own heavy assets. They are obviously very soft and very comfortable. Meanwhile, on the exact other side of the wall, you were lying flat on your back, staring blankly at the ceiling. Then, you slowly raised your hand and absent-mindedly squeezed the empty air a couple of times. But in the very next second, you squeezed your eyes shut, dropped your hand, and instantly smacked your own forehead in frustration. You could definitely say the mental imagery was way too vivid. The next day, you woke up bright and early to study hard, desperately preparing to pass your brutal legal profession qualification exam. But before you could even get through a few lines, you heard this weird, muffled whimpering coming through the wall. My hubby would never cheat on me. I still want to give my hubby little babies. Hearing that bizarre commotion from the next room, you just stared blankly at the wall, completely clueless about what Seraphina was up to this time. Meanwhile, Seraphina was curled up in her chair, with her little feet propped up, swiping frantically through various divorce case files on her tablet. Deep down, she absolutely dreaded the thought of a divorce, so she was desperately digging through legal files for a loophole. Soon, she stumbled upon a truly bizarre case. Case File 1. The defendant forced the plaintiff to sleep with his buddies. The wife couldn't handle the sheer humiliation and immediately filed for divorce. Reading the screen, Seraphina instantly imagined herself in that position and whimpered in her mind, "Oh God, hubby, please never treat me like that. Every inch of me belongs to my hubby and my hubby alone." Shaking off the thought, she scrolled right to the next case. This one? The wife filed for divorce because her husband was a total dud in bed. Their sex life was a complete and utter disaster. Instantly, Seraphina froze dead in her tracks. She bit her glossy lower lip, her mind racing back to last night's events. Wait, could it be that my hubby is actually shooting blanks? Is that why our nights are so dead, and why he brought up a divorce? That has to be it. I was practically begging for it in that outfit yesterday, and hubby didn't even prep his sniper rifle. Look, it's either I have absolutely zero sex appeal, or hubby's hardware is seriously glitching. And let's be real, I am an absolute smoke show of a woman. Meanwhile, right on the other side of the wall, you heard Seraphina's inner voice loud and clear, faced with this blatant, totally naked slander. You were so insanely furious that you just slammed your textbook completely shut. There was absolutely zero chance you could focus on studying with her broadcasting that nonsense, so you got up, heading to the kitchen to whip up something to eat. But Seraphina? She was still doom-scrolling through legal cases. A domestic abuser? How could a husband ever lay a hand on his wife? What absolute garbage. So freaking disgusting. But, wait. If it was hubby doing it to me, that actually doesn't sound too bad. Though, wouldn't a heavy leather belt sting a little too much? Ooh, what about hot wax candles? Hearing that completely unhinged thought, the hand holding your spatula literally froze in midair. What kind of wild, completely deranged animal logic was this? Seriously, where the hell did your cold, elegant, and aloof wife go? A little while later, you finished cooking. After hesitating for a brief second, you dragged yourself over, knocked on Seraphina's door, and called out, "Time to eat." Almost instantly, a very faint and collected "okay" drifted from inside. But a split second later, a wildly joyous voice exploded in your head. "Ah, it feels like forever since I ate with hubby. Hubby's cooking is literally the greatest thing on earth. Yay, I am the happiest little puppy ever." Hearing this absolutely pathetic display, you glanced over at Barnaby, your actual pet dog, who was just rolling on his back in the living room. Your mood became incredibly complicated the moment you sat down for dinner. Honestly, if it weren't for the absolute, deafening racket echoing in your ears, you genuinely never would have guessed that Seraphina, who always played the role of a refined, high society lady, was secretly holding an entire theater of drama in her head. Oh my gosh, it smells so freaking good. So good. How is my hubby this incredibly amazing? He's a total gentleman in the streets, and an absolute master chef in the kitchen. He even looks insanely hot wearing that little apron. I am obsessed. I have completely and utterly surrendered beneath hubby's apron, barking for hubby. Woof woof slurp slurp, hearing her literally bark in her mind. You almost completely broke character and lost your mind. Ah, hubby looks so incredibly handsome when he smiles. Hubby, I don't want to eat this food anymore. I want to eat you. Seriously, where on earth was she pulling this degenerate stuff from? A moment later, you cleared your throat and said faintly, "After dinner. Let's talk." Talk? Talk about what? Oh no, no, no. I absolutely do not want to talk to hubby. The last time we talked, he brought up a divorce. Wah, I don't want to. I don't want to. I absolutely refuse. I am going to the law firm to work overtime this exact second. Panicking, Seraphina shot up from her chair and blurted out, "The law firm has an emergency." Seeing her frantically stand up and try to bolt from the table, a thick vein instantly throbbed on your forehead. You couldn't hold it in anymore. You raised your voice and snapped, "You stop right there." But a split second later, you realized you might have gone a bit too far. It was mostly just the fact that her endless, frantic inner screaming was making your head feel like it was literally going to explode. A quick flash of genuine hurt passed through Seraphina's bright eyes as she muttered, "Fine, I'll go to work later." Wow. Hubby is being so mean to me. He actually yelled at me. Hubby doesn't love me even a little bit anymore. I still can't escape this stupid divorce talk. Whatever, even if I literally drop dead, I absolutely refuse to sign those divorce papers. Ugh, I knew it. I should have worn that ultra-slutty nightgown yesterday. Hearing that emotional roller coaster, you just silently sighed in your heart. Seriously, who could possibly understand this woman? The city's famous, untouchable ice goddess was secretly a whiny, super clingy crybaby. The contrast was just completely insane. Finally, you softened your tone. "Forget it, we will just talk when you get back tonight." I'm literally about to burst into tears. "We still have to talk tonight." Defeated, Seraphina started picking at her food with the most pitiful, wronged expression on her face. You honestly never realized her acting skills were this blatantly terrible before. All these obvious little micro-expressions. How in the world did you completely miss them all those years in the past? Though, admittedly, she did look kind of adorable. After finishing your meal, you started feeding Barnaby, who was happily wagging his tail and occasionally licking your hand. Seeing this sweet moment, Seraphina instantly flared with jealousy. "That stupid dog. I haven't even gotten the chance to lick hubby's hand yet. I can be hubby's dog too. No, not just a dog. I can even be his little fox. I haven't even gotten to wear that fluffy foxtail my bestie gave me." Hearing that degenerate thought, you physically stumbled and almost face-planted right into the dog bed. Meanwhile, the real Seraphina was just letting her food go ice cold. Her eyes were just blankly staring at you as you teased the dog on the sofa. "Caspian, you damn, incredibly charming bastard. I seriously cannot escape you, period. It's been exactly like this ever since we were little kids. I should just shut his mouth right now. That way, he wouldn't even have to leave tonight. I'm staying home. I'm ditching work. I want to do some seriously dirty adulting in broad daylight." Still in a complete daze, you set Barnaby down and couldn't stop yourself from glancing over at Seraphina. Yet, her face was completely stone cold, showing absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. If anything, she was practically radiating this untouchable, high-class elegance. After a moment, you couldn't hold back and told her, "It's really best if you come home on time tonight. Unless it's incredibly important, please just push it back." With her back still to you, she gave a cool, detached hum and nodded. But inside, she was screaming, "Damn it all. I should just run straight back to my parents' house and hide from this storm. I can't let him bring it up again, but, if I do that, I won't get to stare at my insanely handsome hubby anymore. I am so incredibly stressed right now. You know what? Whatever. I'll just come straight home. I'll totally wing it when the time comes. Anyway, if my hubby dares to bring up the D word again, I swear I'll headbutt a wall and end it all right there. I will literally use my last breath to prove my absolute loyalty." With a sharp click, you just stared blankly as the bedroom door shut right in your face. Seriously, how on earth could her inner thoughts be so completely unhinged and rapid fire? You shook your head with a helpless little laugh, then headed back into the study to buckle down and cram for your exams. By the time dinner rolled around, Seraphina was deliberately eating at a snail's pace. You saw right through her pathetic acting, mostly because she was holding her chopsticks, literally picking up single grains of rice, one by one, and desperately counting them. Watching this absurd display, you sighed helplessly. "Just come over here when you're finally done eating." Seraphina shot you a perfectly blank stare, but inside, her heart was doing anxious backflips. This is so annoying. Why is it this heavy, serious vibe again? Why can't we just be sweet and fluffy? I want kisses, I want cuddles, and I want to be spun around in the air. I definitely do not want to talk about divorce. Thinking about all this, Seraphina squeezed Barnaby tight, desperately seeking a tiny shred of security, even as her face stayed completely frozen and aloof. But right as you opened your mouth to drop the bomb, her cell phone ringtone suddenly blared through the room. Startled, Seraphina glanced down at the caller ID. It was her absolute bestie, Alva. "Oh, thank God, my savior is finally here." Without missing a beat, Seraphina said in an icy tone, "I need to take this call." She slapped the answer button decisively. "Hello, Alva, what's going on? Oh my gosh, my husband just got into a horrible car crash. It's incredibly serious. Got it. Don't panic. I'm coming to find you right this second. After hanging up, she turned to you, forcing a deeply apologetic look. Ha! I'm going to stall this out for as long as humanly possible. Hubby, please stop pressuring me. If you push me on this again, I swear I'm going to end it all. Right after that dramatic thought, she frantically shoved her feet into her shoes, snatched up her designer bag, and sprinted out the front door. She left you standing there, utterly dumbfounded, frozen in your tracks, and groaning internally. Wow, you two really are the ultimate besties. Her husband somehow gets into a life-threatening car crash at the exact second she needs an excuse. It was painfully obvious that Seraphina absolutely refused to have this talk today. Once outside, she made a beeline for the parking garage and hopped right into her Porsche Panamera. She just slumped back into the driver's seat, staring blankly out the window, completely lost and conflicted. Just sitting there in the quiet, she actually ended up passing out in the car. By the time her eyes fluttered open, it was already 2:30 in the morning. Figuring you were definitely out cold by now, she sneaked back home, quickly kicked off her killer heels, and tiptoed barefoot across the bedroom floor. Then, she launched herself face first onto the mattress, burying her head deep under the pillows. A second later, a thought struck her. She whipped out her phone and started furiously typing to her bestie. Wait, Alva told me Caspian is absolutely obsessed with my type. I've got massive assets, absolutely zero brain cells, and I'm super easy to pin down. So why on earth is he still trying to divorce me? Her bestie shot back a text instantly. Girl, I told you a long time ago. It is never a good idea to jump into a reckless flash marriage. You literally have a line of guys begging for your attention. Why are you hanging yourself on this one single tree? Reading that, Seraphina furiously jabbed at her phone screen. I only want him. He made a promise to me. He just forgot about it, that's all. It happened when we were tiny kids, so it's totally normal for him to forget. I just know he's going to remember eventually. Oh, and by the way, I wore that super skimpy little nightgown you recommended to me last night. I actually even swapped into 2 totally different sets for him, but he had absolutely zero reaction to me. Reading that, Alva instantly texted back. You went that hard and he still gave you nothing? Girl, could it be that his hardware is totally glitching out downstairs? Hey, don't you dare trash talk my hubby. After firing off that defensive text, Seraphina left her on read, but a nagging thought crept in. Wait, could his hardware actually be broken? Oh my gosh, my poor hubby. What she didn't realize, though, was that you hadn't caught a single wink of sleep. Thanks to all her daytime interruptions, you couldn't get any solid studying done. You were still wide awake, furiously scribbling notes and cramming, but just now, hearing Seraphina's wild inner voice echo in your head made you totally break character. Seriously, how on earth did you suddenly become the guy with the broken hardware? Meanwhile, Seraphina's dramatic inner monologue just kept rambling on. I don't care what's wrong downstairs. I will never, ever abandon my hubby. Even if I just have to be his personal little toy forever. Having firmly made up her mind, Seraphina let out a long, heavy sigh, pulling the fluffy blankets all the way up over her head. Her eyes were blazing with as much fierce determination as a soldier marching into war. But you, sitting wide awake in the very next room, just wanted to scream and curse at the wall. You dragged yourself out of bed bright and early the next day for your morning university classes, already exhausted by the overwhelming odds of your bizarre daily life. But shockingly, Seraphina was already up and moving right alongside you. There she was, rocking a flawless, tailored business suit that completely nailed that mature, untouchable, cool older sister aesthetic. Without missing a beat, she grabbed some bread and milk out of the fridge and shoved them right into your hands. Morning, she said. I'm actually giving a guest lecture at your campus today. We should just ride together. Her voice was totally deadpan, masked by this perfectly polite, ice-cold professional smile. Oh my god, I get to go to class with my hubby. Today's roleplay is totally teacher and student. Hearing her wild inner voice, you completely played deaf and just forced a tight, awkward smile. Good morning to you too. Let's just go. Honestly, catching a lecture from a highly successful alumni about real-world legal cases was a totally normal college thing, so you brushed off the weirdness and followed her down to the underground parking garage. Seraphina popped the car door open, slipping gracefully into the driver's seat before calling out, Hubby? Could you be a dear and grab my flats out of the trunk for me? You were honestly getting way too used to these super intimate little nicknames, probably because you had to listen to her unhinged internal monologues 24/7. You hurried over to the back of the car, grabbed the flats out of the trunk, and right as you leaned down to set them on the pavement, You realize Seraphina had already kicked her stilettos aside, smoothly stretching her gorgeous legs out, so her feet just hovered in midair, her delicate toes wrapped tightly in sheer black nylons. Hubby, come play with my little feet. You could hear her screaming inside as she seemed to catch you staring, even though her actual face remained as icy and unreadable as ever. He totally loves my feet. He literally cannot stop staring at them. Hearing that chaotic thought echo in your head, you sighed, totally resigned to your fate. You know what? Why don't I just drive us? But Seraphina completely ignored the offer, snatching the flats right out of your hands and sliding them on herself. Why isn't he coming over here to touch them? I would let my hubby do literally whatever he wants with them. You just let out a heavy sigh, walked around to the passenger side, and scrambled into the car. 30 minutes later, you hit the campus, muttered a quick goodbye, and sprinted off in your own direction. Later that day, right after Seraphina wrapped up her big guest lecture and strutted back into the parking garage, her phone buzzed. It was Elvira, claiming she wanted to take her somewhere special, a place with a top-secret formula guaranteed to make you completely change your mind about her. That single sentence hit Seraphina like a massive ray of hope, piercing straight through her desperate heart. But the exact second she opened her mouth to ask for the details, her so-called bestie just slammed the phone down. So, driven by a chaotic mix of pure confusion, burning curiosity, and frantic anticipation, Seraphina rushed straight over to their meeting spot. A few minutes later, Elvira strolled up rocking a crisp white lab coat. She wasn't a medical doctor, though she was a hardcore PhD student down in the university's chemistry department. Basically, another one of your fellow alumni. Without even bothering to say hello, Elvira grabbed Seraphina's arm and dragged her super suspiciously right into the science building. Before she knew it, they were standing dead center in front of a massive, intimidating pile of heavy-duty chemistry lab equipment. Seeing all these beakers and tubes, Seraphina kept her face totally stone-cold, but inside, she was absolutely losing her mind. Elvira, isn't this insanely sketchy? Look, didn't you just tell me you wore 2 different super sexy nightgowns and he still barely even looked at you? Don't worry. I personally tweaked and diluted this batch myself. This stuff is literally used to help giant elephants breed in captivity. Trust me, if it works on a massive elephant, it is 100% going to work on your husband. After dropping that bomb, Elvira gave the sketchy test tube a little shake, looking way too thrilled by her own mad scientist vibes. Seraphina was standing there looking completely terrified, so Elvira immediately rolled her eyes and snapped, "Fine, then I'm officially washing my hands of your love life, okay? If your man ends up divorcing you, don't come crying to me." She even threw in this exaggerated, super dramatic look of fake pity just to guilt-trip her. Finally pushed to the edge, Seraphina fiercely gritted her teeth. "Fine, let's just go in and check it out. I absolutely refuse to let my hubby divorce me." Fast forward to when you finally wrapped up all your classes and dragged yourself back to the house. It was already 7 o'clock at night. Pushing the front door open, you spotted Seraphina holding Barnaby, playfully teasing the little guy with a toy. The whole scene looked surprisingly wholesome and sweet. "Oh, you're back," she said. The exact second she laid eyes on you, her entire face lit up. "My hubby is finally home. Tonight is the night I unleash my brand new secret weapon on him." Hearing that terrifying thought, you were instantly hit with a massive wave of pure, unfiltered dread. What kind of absolute psycho scheme is she cooking up now? But honestly, you were just numb to her unhinged internal screaming at this point. You just gave her a completely deadpan nod, swapped your shoes for some cozy house slippers, and muttered that you were going to hit the shower first. But the second Seraphina watched your back disappear behind that bathroom door, she bolted straight into her bedroom like her life depended on it. "Okay, which set should I wear tonight? Maybe this one? No, that's way too scandalous. The skirt is literally non-existent. That's just way too aggressively obvious, right? Okay, I'll definitely just stick with this one." Meanwhile, hidden away in the bathroom, you were completely covered in soap suds, feeling a literal chill of icy water run straight down your terrified spine. It was honestly impossible to even describe this lingering sense of doom. What kind of sheer absolute madness was constantly rattling around inside her head all day? A few minutes later, you finished rinsing off and barely made it back to your bedroom when a soft knock hit the door. Even though every single survival instinct screamed no, you slowly cracked the door open, and there stood Seraphina, wrapped up in nothing but a loose bathrobe, extending a simple, innocent-looking glass of milk right toward you. "Here, drink some warm milk." Hearing those words, you stared back at her perfectly polite, plastic smile in absolute, pure horror, because you had already heard the terrifying, unhinged voice screaming inside her head. "Is this potion Elle gave me actually reliable? She said 10 milliliters is enough to make an elephant go into heat. Pouring in 1 milliliter should be enough. Right? Hearing her inner thoughts directly shattered your mental defenses. Holy crap! Taking stuff meant for literal elephants and trying to make me drink it. Are you trying to take me out? Instantly, you stared at her, your voice dead serious. Seraphina, we need to talk. Right now. The second those words left your mouth, her soft body violently flinched in shock. Her head drooped immediately. Her heart turned to cold, dead ashes. She felt her eyes swell with hot tears, her vision blurring fast. Finally, Seraphina completely broke down. I don't want to talk. After she choked out those words, the whole world just seemed to go dead quiet. You stared intently at her, completely speechless for what felt like forever. For some reason, hitting you right in the chest, it felt like you truly didn't understand the woman standing in front of you anymore. Seeming to notice your stunned expression, Seraphina nervously pulled her bathrobe tighter, finally gathering up a tiny shred of courage. In a fragile, tiny voice, she whispered, "I just want to save our failing marriage, Caspian. I don't want a divorce." Hearing this out loud, you blinked in pure astonishment. But why do you even want to save it? Because we promised. We promised to be together for a lifetime, yet you can't remember me at all. However, Seraphina didn't actually say that out loud. It was just her heartbreaking inner thought. In a heavy daze, Seraphina's eyes flushed a deep, painful red. The moment she raised her head, heavy beads of tears slid down her cheeks, because, Caspian, you are a massive idiot. Hearing her thoughts, you froze completely. You never expected her to have such a sudden, intense reaction, but judging by what she was thinking, did the two of you actually know each other from way back in the day? Right at that moment, her sad inner voice echoed in your mind again. Back in the orphanage, you insisted on kisses every single day. You even swore you wanted to play the bride and groom game with me for the rest of your life. Do I seriously have to be the one to bring this kind of embarrassing stuff up first? Thinking of this, she aggressively rubbed the corners of her eyes with the back of her hand. Gritting her teeth, she finally blurted it out. You have amnesia. The next second, crazy ripples washed over your vision, leaving you completely dazed. Like a drowned ghost, a lost segment of past memories suddenly floated up to the surface. You were in the small playground of a rundown orphanage. A beautiful, slightly older girl stood right next to the sandbox, silently watching a little boy sitting in the dirt. Big sister clearly said she would marry me. Then you are my bride. Why can't I have a kiss? You watched the bratty boy throwing a massive tantrum, rolling around on the ground until his whole body was covered in thick gray dust. But facing this chaotic scene, the older girl was clearly totally used to it. She gently crouched down, patted the boy's messy head, and pouted her little mouth. Seriously, because we're just playing house. However, the stubborn little boy wouldn't listen at all. I don't care. I don't care. You are. Reading it brought back a distant memory. Even as a young girl, her elegant aura was completely unmistakable. In stark contrast, the little boy next to her acted exactly his age, huffing and puffing with red cheeks. If you don't let me kiss you, then I'm not eating dinner. The older girl just raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you're just going to starve yourself to death? Hearing this, the stubborn boy nodded furiously. Yeah, I'm going to starve myself to death, so you won't have a groom anymore. The girl couldn't help but burst out laughing. She playfully poked his forehead with her tiny finger. Well then, I guess I don't care about you anymore. I'm going to go eat. With that, the soft little figure stood up and turned to leave. Seeing his bluff called, the boy wailed even louder. But mid-sob, he scrambled right out of the sandbox, puffing his chest out as he chased after the little girl. Then, he obediently shoved his chubby little hand right into hers, while rubbing his teary eyes with the other. He looked like an absolute mess, yet pitifully cute. Stop crying, okay? Her soft hand held onto little Caspian with incredible gentleness. Still, the boy pouted. Utterly defeated by his relentless puppy dog eyes, the girl finally gave in, letting out a soft sigh of pure helplessness. Leaning down, she gently cupped his dirt-smudged face in her hands and pressed a soft, hesitant kiss right against his cheek. Can we please go eat now? She whispered. The boy nodded eagerly, though his little mind was already scheming. I definitely want another one of those next time. I want to play bride and groom with my big sister for the absolute rest of my life, he vowed silently to himself. She didn't say a single word, but her dazzling, bright eyes held all the beauty in the world, and deep down in her heart, she had silently accepted his innocent promise. But reality is always cruel, and that perfect happiness shattered the very day her biological parents suddenly tracked her down. Through her tears as she left, she swore she would definitely come back for him, a desperate vow you clung to all the way until your first year of graduate school. Then, in a crazy twist of fate, the two of you were suddenly reintroduced all those years later, completely by accident, all thanks to your best bro. But here's the massive plot twist. Up until this exact moment, you had absolutely no idea her cousin Thorn was actually your old college roommate and absolute best bro. Back in the day, he used to hype his cousin up to the high heavens, constantly bragging that she was absolutely perfect in every single way. She was an ice-cold, long-legged legal beauty who practically lived in black stockings. At first, you didn't buy a single word of it, but the day you finally met her, man, you were completely captivated. Seraphina was just way too beautiful, looking exactly like an A-list celebrity. Her only real flaw, she was freezing cold. But hey, you figured that brilliant people always have their little quirks, so you just rolled with it. Then, on just your second date, Seraphina drops a bomb. Can we just get our marriage certificates right now and figure out our feelings later? Those words immediately made you feel like you were getting played by a total marriage scammer. But, let's be real. You were a completely broke college student. What could she possibly steal from you? So, you only hesitated for exactly one day. The very next morning, the two of you actually went out and got hitched. Snapping back to reality now, you suddenly bury your face in your hands. Seraphina was exactly 6 years older than you. There's just no way it's this huge of a coincidence, right? Instantly, you stand totally frozen in place, feeling incredibly awkward, completely clueless about what to do next. Meanwhile, Seraphina was just standing at the doorway, still clutching that glass of milk. Maybe she'd been standing there a bit too long, because her foot started hurting all over again. You noticed her body sway slightly. My foot hurts, but my heart hurts even more. God, I just want to die. Hearing her dramatic inner voice, you clearly saw how uncomfortable she was. Glancing down at her ankle, you realized it was swelling up again. Hey, how about I help you over to the sofa first? Hearing that, Seraphina gave a pitiful little nod. Just like that, you gently guided her to the couch and sat her down. Then, she delicately propped up her injured foot, her soft, red lips locked in a cute little pout. You quickly grabbed the medicinal oil, shaking the bottle right in front of her. Do you want me to rub this in for you? She just kept her head down, refusing to say a word, but stubbornly shoved her small foot right into your lap. My hubby is such a massive jerk, she thought. Seeing her classic Sunder act, you honestly couldn't help but find her incredibly cute, especially since you could hear every single word of her inner voice, exposing her hilarious two-faced attitude. However, the second your hands gently wrapped around Seraphina's foot, and you saw that the ankle she had been recovering from was all red and swollen again, a sudden pang of heartache hit you. Seriously, don't wear high heels tomorrow. Oh, okay, Seraphina answered softly. Then, she suddenly lifted her head, locking eyes right with you. Exactly. Instantly, her face completely flushed like a ripe red apple, the deep blush spreading all the way from her cheeks right to the tips of her ears. Out of pure embarrassment, she instinctively tried to yank her foot back, but your hand quickly caught it, holding it firmly in place. Hey, stop squirming, you scolded lightly. With no other choice, Seraphina obediently nodded and completely froze. But her eyes began darting around in absolute panic. Ah, I'm going to die. What a bad guy. Staring at me so intensely like that, I really can't handle it. This is pure seduction. Red-hot, shameless seduction. You're actually using this to tempt an elite, high-class legal beauty. I mean, what kind of elite lawyer could possibly withstand this level of temptation? Hearing her wild inner thoughts, you desperately wanted to burst out laughing, but you kept a totally straight face, carefully massaging the oil into her ankle. But just as you were biting your cheek to hold back a smile, Seraphina suddenly shoved that glass of milk right into your face. Hurry up and drink it. I want to go on my maternity leave already. Hearing that outrageous thought completely shattered your composure, making the corner of your mouth twitch uncontrollably. You quickly backed off, loudly declaring that you absolutely hate drinking milk. Seeing your refusal, Seraphina instantly panicked. Wait, if you don't drink it, how am I supposed to go on maternity leave? Desperate, she hurriedly blurted out, but drinking milk really helps you sleep. Seeing that she flat out refused to drop it, you quickly moved her leg off your lap, getting ready to just stand up and bail. But in the very next second, a pale, delicate hand shot out, grabbing onto your arm with surprising strength. You slowly turned your head back, only to see Seraphina gently biting her bottom lip. Her bright, beautiful eyes were cast downward, giving off this incredibly pitiful, hopelessly vulnerable vibe. Please, just drink it. Hubby, this is really good for you. Her voice had completely lost its usual icy edge. Instead, she stretched out her words, sounding like a sweet, needy whine. Hearing her beg like that, you awkwardly cleared your throat twice, and frantically looked away. But out of nowhere, she boldly pushed the glass right up against your lips. Hubby, let me feed it to you. For some crazy reason, this whole setup felt exactly like a villain forcing poison down a dying man's throat. It completely freaked you out, and you quickly dodged backward. No, it's fine. I'm seriously not drinking that, you insisted. But wait, didn't you want to drink milk just a second ago? Rejected. Seraphina jutted out her bottom lip, her face twisting into the most pitiful, terribly wronged expression. My hubby is such a bad guy. Flat out refusing to drink my milk. No freaking way. I absolutely must make him drink it today. Feeling completely cornered by her sheer persistence, you finally let out a helpless sigh. Do you really want to know why I won't drink it? You asked, point blank. Instantly, Seraphina felt this huge wave of inexplicable guilt wash over her, but you didn't even give her time to react. You boldly reached out, wrapping your hand directly around her slender waist. Ah, hubby is actually touching me. Wait, isn't this moving way too fast? Instantly, that deep crimson blush that had just faded from Seraphina's cheeks came rushing right back, spreading all the way down her neck. But right as she was drowning in her own wild fantasies, you gently tapped her bathrobe pocket twice and pulled out that tiny bottle, giving off a seriously sketchy vibe. You didn't say a single word. You just stood there holding the bottle, staring at her with dead calm eyes, waiting for her to explain herself. But the second she laid eyes on that bottle, her face went into full meltdown mode. She honestly looked exactly like a boiled shrimp. Panicking, she just blurted out, good night, Maka Paka. And then she frantically scrambled and limped her way right back to her bedroom. God, I just want to drop dead right now, she thought. Hearing her internal screaming, you literally couldn't stop a tiny, almost invisible smirk from creeping onto the corners of your mouth. Meanwhile, back in her bedroom, Seraphina was thrashing around on her bed like an absolute maniac, feeling her whole body burning up. Ah, I am dying of embarrassment. Just end me now. Not only did her grand drugging scheme completely crash and burn, but she got caught totally red-handed. Just thinking about it made Seraphina bury her face deep into her pillows, looking like her soul had officially left her body. The next morning, you let out a massive yawn and dragged yourself out of the bedroom, rocking some serious dark circles under your eyes. And you could thank your neighbor, Seraphina, for that, since she forced you to listen to her one-woman comedy breakdown all night long. Half an hour later, right as you finished whipping up breakfast, you saw her creep out. She was rocking rimless glasses today, and you could faintly spot the heavy bags under her tired eyes. Even her thickest layer of foundation couldn't cover them up. Seeing her like that, you weirdly felt a tiny twinge of heartache for her. So, you genuinely invited her to sit down and grab some breakfast. But Seraphina's eyes kept darting away, dodging your gaze. This is just way too embarrassing. Hubby, please don't bring up last night. If he mentions it, I swear I will literally die of social anxiety right on the spot. Panicking, she quickly grabbed a pair of flats from the shoe cabinet and blurted, no time for breakfast. I gotta head to work right now. Bye-bye. You blinked. Oh, all right then. Be safe out there. Seraphina gave a stiff, tiny nod, and then bolted out the front door without even looking back, watching her frantically run away. For some weird reason, you couldn't help but think she was actually kinda cute. Later, after arriving at the university, you walked up behind Thorne's desk, slapped his shoulder, and demanded, "What kind of absolute garbage did you feed your cousin?" Thorne slowly turned around, his face looking totally lost and confused. You stared him down with a fake icy smile. "Since when did I ever say I was into icy goddesses and legally blonde beauties in black tights? Bro, you literally said it yourself back then. You said you wanted a pale, stunning, icy goddess. A total bombshell who loves wearing black thigh-highs. I just related to my cousin, word for absolute word." You rolled your eyes. "Dude, that was obviously just me talking smack with the boys." "Oh yeah? Well, you also said you were super into lady doctors with massive assets and tiny waists, preferably rocking black stockings under their medical scrubs. How about I go snitch to your wife about your little ideal type right now, huh?" Saying that, you casually reached right into your pocket to pull out your phone. Seeing that, Thorne panicked and lunged to grab your hand. No, bro, wait. I messed up. I was totally wrong. It was just a totally stupid slip of the tongue. I am so sorry, you smirked. Just call me Godfather, and maybe we can let this slide. Left with literally zero options, Thorne surrendered, dropped his pride, and called you Godfather. But suddenly, a light bulb seemed to go off in his head. Wait, I just called you Godfather. Does that mean my cousin has to call you Daddy now? The absolute second those words left his mouth, he realized how horribly wrong that sounded. You and Thorne just locked eyes, shared a smirk, and without missing a beat, you flipped your supposed best bro a giant middle finger. Thorne's mouth twitched hard. He was so obviously the one getting completely played here. Anyway, by the time 6 p.m. rolled around, you had wrapped up all your classes and headed straight home, only to find the place completely dead and empty. Clearly, Seraphina hadn't made it back yet. Sighing, you fished your phone out of your pocket and pulled up your incredibly dry chat history with her. "Coming home for dinner tonight?" You texted. Her reply pinged back instantly. "No, still stuck doing overtime." With a shrug, you had no choice but to toss your phone onto the couch, trying to figure out what the heck you were going to eat for dinner. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Seraphina quietly locked her office door and took a box cutter to carefully slice open a highly suspicious package. Blushing furiously, she reached in, pulled the item out, and hesitantly held it right up against her neck. Wait, what kind of absolute trash did Elvira recommend to me this time? By the time Seraphina finally got back to the house, she noticed the lights in your room were already pitch black. Only then did she clutch the box tightly to her chest and tiptoe quietly back to her room. She popped the box open, pulled out the spicy prop, snapped a quick photo, and texted it straight to Elvira. "What the hell is up with this kinky dog collar?" she typed. Elvira just instantly fired back with a wildly wicked smirking emoji. "Girl, that is the exact item I used to buff my husband's attack speed," Seraphina groaned. "But it's just so embarrassing." After firing off that text, Seraphina flopped onto her bed, completely mortified, and buried herself under the blankets, her bright, gentle eyes glued intensely to her phone screen. A few agonizing seconds of silence passed before a new message chimed in. "Come on, when it comes to stuff going down in the bedroom between a man and a woman, why are you even getting embarrassed? Besides, what is so wrong with acting like a cute little puppy for him?" The absolute second Seraphina read that message, she lost her mind and started rolling all over her bed again, dying of pure embarrassment. "I have absolutely no clue what you are talking about." A little while later, another message pinged on her phone. "Relax, take a breath. This piece of equipment is absolutely foolproof." In a split second, Seraphina's gorgeous peach blossom eyes totally lit up. If it really is foolproof, she stared at the gear, happily letting her mind run wild with some very spicy scenarios. The next day was the weekend, and just like clockwork, Seraphina was up bright and early. Just as she was settling in to handle some morning work, you knocked on her door. "Hey, the cleaning lady is here to tidy up. Yours is the only room left." Hearing this, Seraphina kept her icy facade and simply replied with a cold, "Okay," before pulling the door open. Carrying her laptop, she strolled into the living room to get her work done, while you just sat quietly on the sofa right next to her, flipping through a book. But right at that peaceful moment, a sudden voice completely shattered the silence. "Ma'am, I took that dog collar out for you. It is really not sanitary to leave this kind of stuff lying around the bedroom." "Oh, all right," Seraphina answered flatly, not even bothering to look up from her screen. But a second later, her entire body went completely rigid. "Wait, something is horribly wrong. What collar? Do not bring it out. Wait." A frantic and totally panicked Seraphina shot right up from her seat to stop the maid, but who could have guessed the cleaning lady was moving at absolute lightning speed? She casually and calmly tossed the thick leather dog chain right into Barnaby's bed, then turned back into the bedroom to keep cleaning, leaving the poor dog looking completely and utterly bewildered. He had such a tiny, fluffy little body, sitting next to such a massive, heavy-duty collar. Seeing this hilarious scene unfold, you also froze dead in your tracks, the corner of your eye twitching like absolutely crazy. What in the world is this thing? The sizing is obviously way off for the dog, seeming to notice your incredibly weird expression. Seraphina stood frozen like a statue, her gorgeous face blushing a furious shade of red while her brain underwent a massive meltdown. "Oh my god, I am going to croak. I absolutely cannot live through this humiliation. This is just way too embarrassing." Now, at this very moment, you genuinely had no earthly idea what Seraphina's frantic inner voice actually meant. But thankfully, she kept right on explaining it to herself. "This kind of toy is obviously only meant to be used by hubby and me during our special intimate time. Why on earth did the cleaning lady have to bring this out in the open? I am seriously docking her pay." Hearing her unhinged thoughts, you stood up, casually strolled over to the dog bed, and gently picked the collar up. Instantly, the whole spicy truth clicked in your head. Even though you did not fully understand your wife's extremely wild hobbies, you really just wanted to be supportive and respect them. However, in the very next second, Seraphina sprinted over and snatched it right out of your hands. "Oh my gosh, hubby holding that collar looks so incredibly hot." Looking extremely guilty on the outside, she stuttered out a frantic explanation. This dog collar seems to have been bought a size too big. Hubby, please do not look at me with those eyes. I am seriously going to die of embarrassment, right here on the spot. So, Wanting to spare her, you had no choice but to awkwardly shift your gaze away. Seeing you look away, Seraphina's inner voice immediately went totally wild once again. I want to wear that thing, kneel right down on the floor, and call him master. Just thinking about it makes me. Seraphina, you are such a massive pervert. But hey, if it is my hubby, it is not totally out of the question. In a total daze, an uncontrollable, extremely vivid image suddenly popped right into your head. Your beautiful wife, kneeling submissively on the floor, with that shiny collar hanging around her pale, delicate neck. Her stunning, delicate body stretched out in the most alluring, irresistible way possible. Her beautiful face completely filled with tender, loving affection, her sweet mouth calling out to you, begging for a bite. Thinking of this incredibly hot scene, your gaze naturally shifted downward, and your Adam's apple bobbed heavily in your throat. The size is wrong. I will go return it later. Spitting out that excuse, a furiously blushing Seraphina clutched the collar tightly and practically sprinted back into her room to hide her dirty little secret. Fast forward to dinner time. After you finish cooking a delicious meal, you knock gently on Seraphina's door. Time to eat. Oh, okay. Soon enough, a totally flat, emotionless voice answered from inside. But internally? It is okay. It is totally fine. Once you lose your dignity enough times, you eventually get used to it. I still have to go out there and eat dinner with my hubby. Hearing her two completely opposite voices, you could not help but let out a knowing smile, then turned and headed straight to the dining room. Right after that, Seraphina finally walked out of her bedroom, but her nervous eyes kept completely dodging yours. Wow, this is all my fault for being so incredibly careless. I do not even dare to look at hubby right now. Hubby will not think I am some super weird freak, right? Just like that, the meal began. On the surface, the two of you sat there and ate your food in absolute, pin-drop silence. But in reality, listening to her chaotic inner thoughts felt exactly like sitting front row at a hilarious stand-up comedy show. Honestly speaking, this completely flustered version of her was actually ridiculously cute. She clearly had so much wild stuff screaming in her heart, yet she still forced herself to look completely graceful and perfectly elegant on the outside. After dinner wrapped up, you grabbed little Barnaby, getting ready to give the pup a nice, warm, fragrant bath. But Barnaby fiercely resisted the water, wiggling around non-stop while barking his little head off woof, woof, woof. You, however, completely ignored his dramatic protests and forced him right into the tub. However, watching you handle the dog from a distance, this simple scene instantly sparked a massive wave of pure jealousy right inside Seraphina's mind. Why isn't hubby helping me get all washed and fragrant? I want my hubby to scrub me down too. I promise I definitely would not bark at him. I am super, super obedient. Hearing this absolutely unhinged thought, your hands holding the wet dog actually trembled, and the corner of your mouth twitched wildly out of your control. By the time the next day rolled around, you woke up, stepped right out of your bedroom, and immediately realized that something was very, very wrong. On any other day, Barnaby would be happily pouncing all over you, looking up with those big, enthusiastic puppy eyes, practically begging for some head pats. But today, he was just lying lifelessly in his little bed, letting out the occasional sneeze and a weak, pitiful whine. His tail barely even gave a wag. Seeing him like this made your heart instantly clench up. You rushed over, scooped the poor pup into your arms, and gently knocked on Seraphina's door. Barnaby is sick. It's probably a cold. I probably didn't dry his fur well enough after his bath yesterday. Can you drive us to the vet? Just like that, the two of you hopped into the car. Seraphina actually seemed a bit more anxious than her usual self as she fired up the engine. The entire ride, you kept gently petting the shivering little Barnaby in your arms. Good boy. You won't feel so awful once we get to the vet, okay? Meanwhile, Seraphina kept sneaking little peeks at the dog in your arms. I want hubby to hold me like that, too. Sure, she felt bad for the dog, but her eyes were practically screaming with absolute envy, jealousy, and sheer spite. Once you arrived at the clinic, the vet gave him a thorough checkup. It turned out to be exactly what you expected, just a simple cold. Still, it absolutely broke your heart, watching Barnaby lay there so weakly on the exam table, getting hooked up to an IV drip. You couldn't help but think about how he hadn't eaten a single bite all morning. So, you quickly bought a bowl of specially formulated nutritional porridge, right there at the clinic. Taking a tiny spoon, you started feeding Barnaby bit by bit, patiently coaxing him. Come on, Barnaby, just eat a little bit. Once you eat, you'll get your energy back and we can go play. Watching this whole tender scene, Seraphina quietly pursed her lips. I am so ridiculously jealous of Barnaby. I want to be taken care of by hubby, too. I want to eat that, too. But wait, that is literal dog food, Seraphina. You absolute idiot. Hearing her mutter this, The hand you were using to hold the spoon completely froze. It took you a good, long second before you could finally offer the next bite. You honestly couldn't help but wonder what on earth was going on inside Seraphina's bizarre brain circuits. Right at that moment, Seraphina reached out a hand, wanting to poke and tease the pitiful little pup. But she quickly yanked it back with a shudder, shaking her head. Being sick and stuck in a hospital. What is there to even be jealous of? Overhearing that, you turned to shoot Seraphina a weird look. Yep, her brain was definitely wired way differently than a normal person's. 2.5 hours later, the IV drip finally finished. Barnaby was looking noticeably more energetic, and he even eagerly licked your hand. You just smiled back at him, gently petting his fuzzy head. I want to lick hubby's hand too. I want my head to be petted by hubby, too. I want to. Honestly, if Seraphina's death glare could kill people, no, wait, if it could kill dogs, Barnaby would have already died a dozen times over by now. Once you all got back home, you carefully minced up some chicken breast and cooked it into a warm chicken porridge for Barnaby to eat. Maybe it was because he had been stuck on an IV drip for hours, but Barnaby's appetite was completely back. He was eating vigorously, tail wagging happily. Seeing this, Seraphina's gaze from right beside you turned intensely resentful. Hubby hasn't even cooked for me yet, and that stupid dog is already eating. It made her so unbelievably mad. She immediately stormed off to the office to bury herself in overtime work. Watching her retreating back, you couldn't help but smile helplessly. Why is she getting so jealous over a literal puppy? Working overtime straight until 2:30 in the morning, Seraphina finally finished wrapping up all the pending paperwork on her desk. Even though she was dragging her utterly exhausted body back home, her eyes looked exceptionally determined. Why? Because Seraphina had already made up her mind since noon. I'm going to freeze myself. I want to get sick, too. I want hubby to personally feed me porridge. So, Seraphina sneakily rummaged around in the fridge, looking for the perfect weapon. Soon enough, she dragged a large wash basin into the bathroom and quickly stripped off her clothes. Instantly, her massive assets and incredibly slender waist were fully exposed to the chilly air. Looking down, she realized she couldn't even see her own toes. She could only see half of the wash basin, and inside, it was filled to the absolute brim with solid ice cubes. The very next second, she held her breath, picking up the basin with the desperate look of someone marching straight to their death. Splash! She instantly poured the freezing cold ice water all over her body. Even as the agonizing chill pierced right down to her bones, she gritted her teeth and stubbornly pushed through the pain. After that insane shower, just to make absolutely sure that nothing went wrong with her crazy plan, Seraphina purposely threw on the thinnest nightgown she owned and sat right by the open window, letting the cold night wind blast against her skin. In no time at all, she felt her body start to violently shiver, her head getting heavy and groggy. By the next morning, just as she had so brilliantly calculated, she gloriously woke up with a massive cold. As you woke up, opened the door, and stepped out of your bedroom, the very first thing that caught your eye was Seraphina. She was curled up, fast asleep on the sofa. You noticed her face was deathly pale, and her breathing sounded uncomfortably heavy. Seeing her in such a state, you froze for a split second, then quickly reached out to feel her forehead. Why is she burning up like this? This was honestly the very first time you had ever observed her from such a close distance. Normally, Seraphina always wore this cold, untouchable, aloof expression. But right now, quietly keeping her eyes shut, she looked so much softer and gentler than usual. Perhaps noticing your intense gaze, the sleepy woman fluttered her groggy eyes open. Hubby, why are you in my bedroom? Her voice was hoarse and barely a whisper. Her inner voice panicked. Is hubby finally going to make a move on me? He can do it. He totally can. Wait, forget it. I can't. Everything hurts way too much right now. Hearing her painful thoughts, your eyebrows knit together. But you kept your tone soft and gentle. You fell asleep on the sofa. How did you end up catching such a bad fever? The groggy Seraphina blinked, looking around as she finally realized where she actually was. She immediately jerked her head away, muttering softly under her breath. It's nothing. Probably just the cold wind. But her inner voice screamed, I absolutely cannot let hubby find out that I literally dumped 2 whole buckets of ice water on myself just to get him to take care of me. Hearing the crazy truth behind her sickness, your expression instantly dropped in pure shock. Seeing you suddenly staring at her in speechless disbelief, a wave of grievance started brewing in Seraphina's chest. Why is hubby glaring at me so fiercely? He definitely didn't look at Barnaby the dog like that yesterday. Just thinking about it, the rims of her eyes turned bright red. Heavy tears started smacking down her cheeks. Seeing this pitiful sight, you sighed deeply, poured a glass of warm water, popped out some pills, and handed them over. Here, take your medicine first. Sniffling, the deeply aggrieved Seraphina rubbed her eyes and obediently swallowed the pills. Ugh, it tastes so awful. I feel like throwing up. Humans really are treated worse than the family dog in this house. It makes me so mad. When Barnaby gets sick, he gets showered with all the soft and gentle baby talk. But when I get sick, I just get fiercely glared at. That cute little brother who begged for kisses every single day when we were kids grew up, and now he totally hates his big sister. Wow. The more her mind spun, the more utterly wronged and heartbroken she felt. Clutching the glass, her tears started going pat-pat as they spilled over again. Seeing her break down, your heart completely softened, and you reached out to gently pet her head. You looked at the clearly stunned girl and said softly, "Hey, stop crying. Your stomach must be completely empty by now, right? How about I whip up a nice hot bowl of century egg and lean pork porridge for you?" She sniffled. No need. But right then, Seraphina caught the deep gentleness in your eyes and suddenly lost all her urge to cry. I'm actually not that hungry." Seeing her act so stubbornly brave, an incredible wave of guilt washed over your heart. But Seraphina had already turned her flushed face away. The truth was, just getting a simple head pat from you made her feel like her racing heart was going to burst right out of her chest. But since she didn't project that specific thought as an inner voice, you had absolutely no way of knowing how flustered she was. Still, you walked straight to the kitchen, determined to cook her up a comforting bowl of century egg and lean pork porridge anyway. A few minutes later, you walked back out carrying a perfectly steaming, delicious-looking bowl of porridge. It's still pretty hot. Wait for it to cool down a bit before you eat. Hearing your warm tone, Seraphina gave a tiny, gentle nod. She lowered her head, trying her best to hide her puffy, reddened eyes, totally giving off the vibe of a sad, abandoned little puppy. Ugh, if only hubby would spoon-feed me himself, I'd be the happiest little puppy in the whole wide world. Catching that loud and clear inner voice, you immediately averted your gaze, awkwardly thinking to yourself, spoon-feeding is just way too much. If I really spoon-fed you, wouldn't I literally be treating you like Barnaby 2.0? You are Seraphina. You're my wife. Barnaby is just a dog. However, watching your eyes shift away so dismissively, Seraphina felt another sharp pang of sadness in her heart. Unable to hold back, she mumbled in a tiny fragile voice, "But you won't even feed me like you fed Barnaby. And I'm sick too." The sudden tremor in her voice completely stunned you. Unlike all her usual dramatic inner thoughts, this time, you heard nothing but genuine, heartbreaking sadness. In a sudden daze, it hit you like a truck. You really had been ignoring her feelings way too much lately, constantly leaving things unspoken and destroying her sense of security. No wonder she was always letting her wild imagination run away with her. Truth be told, you had a huge crush on her right from the very start. Otherwise, why would you have agreed to marry her so damn fast? Plus, you certainly hadn't forgotten that childhood promise, the one where you swore to play the marriage game with her for the rest of your life. Snapping back to reality, you looked Seraphina dead in the eye and said, "Seriously, when I brought up divorce before, it was only because I thought you felt absolutely nothing for me. I was terrified of holding you back from your own happiness. But now that the air is finally cleared, do you think our old promise still counts?" "What promise?" Seraphina froze, answering blankly. "Ah, what promise?" She stuttered blankly again. "Love after marriage." Just 4 simple words. Instantly, Seraphina felt like her stuffy nose was completely clear. Her head wasn't even groggy anymore. She immediately propped her weak body up from the sofa, eyes brimming with bright, hopeful tears. "Really? Didn't we already agree on it?" Hearing her sweet answer, you ignored your own slightly trembling palms and confidently said, "I'm a man who strictly keeps his promises." Her mind exploded with joy. Where else can you find a hubby who strictly keeps his promises? Are the dark clouds finally clearing up to reveal a bright sunny sky? But why did hubby have to drop this massive bombshell while I'm so sick? I'm so happy. I'm so unbelievably happy. But I can't even crack a smile because my body feels so damn awful. Sniffle. Amidst her overflowing joy, Seraphina weakly pouted her lips all over again. Her whole body slumped back, staring up at you with those big, pitiful eyes. Seeing this, you honestly couldn't help but find it a little amusing. "What's wrong? Did you suddenly go mute on me? Why aren't you saying anything?" she mumbled. I really don't feel well. I want to eat the porridge, but my hands they don't have any strength." After Seraphina said this, she gently bit her soft lower lip, glancing up at you with nervous, fluttering eyes. "Hubby, feed me, please. I want you to feed me." Chuckling, you reached out and gave her head a gentle pat. Then, you grabbed the bowl of warm porridge from the nightstand, scooped up a small spoonful, brought it to your lips, and blew on it softly. Only after you made absolutely sure it wasn't too hot did you gently guide it to Seraphina's lips. I'm not dreaming, am I? She thought, her heart racing. My husband is being so gentle. But the very next second, Seraphina suddenly snatched the bowl right out of your hands. I have my strength back now, she blurted out, her face burning. I'll just eat it myself. Burying her face to hide her embarrassment, she started taking tiny, hurried bites. But what you didn't know was, it wasn't that she didn't want you to feed her. She was just terrified that if you kept feeding her, she'd blush so hard she'd actually pass out. The porridge hubby makes is just so delicious, she squealed inwardly. I'm going to eat every single last drop. Just as she was melting into her little moment of pure bliss, you broke the silence. Sarah, did you ever come back to look for me? This was something that had been weighing heavily on your mind. If the two of you were really going to give this marriage a genuine shot, you absolutely had to clear the air. Snapping back to reality, Seraphina completely froze. I did. After I moved back to the country, I rushed straight to the Leaf orphanage, but it wasn't there anymore. I asked around everywhere, but nobody had a clue where you went. You frowned slightly, tilting your head. Then, how did you know it was me? I actually didn't know at first, she admitted softly. It was Thorn. He found out my family was pressuring me into a blind marriage. So, he came to me pitching his best bro, saying you were handsome, incredible, and came from a simple background. He promised there'd be absolutely zero toxic mother-in-law drama. Just bringing it up made a shy, embarrassed flush creep back onto Seraphina's cheeks. She hurriedly waved her hands. I completely rejected him at first, but then he showed me your picture. I knew it was you the absolute second I saw it. You look exactly the same as when you were little, just a scaled-up version. Hearing her passionate confession, you couldn't help but rub the back of your neck awkwardly. I only remembered having this older sister who treated me incredibly well when I was little, you confessed. I remember promising to wait for her, but man, I was only 4 years old at the time. Over the years, I just couldn't remember exactly what that sweet sister looked like anymore, and then later, the orphanage caught fire. The entire archive room burned to ashes. We were all separated and shipped off to different orphanages. But Sarah, I promise you everything I told you before we tied the knot was the absolute truth. Hearing your raw honesty, Seraphina tightly pursed her trembling lips. The rushing memories of the past made her eyes sting with unshed tears, because the man sitting right in front of her, he had been her single, solitary ray of light back in the Bay. Dark orphanage. This was especially true when you used to trail right behind her, calling her your big sister, shamelessly demanding kisses, and boldly declaring that you were going to marry her one day. Thinking back on those precious days, she let out an emotional sigh in her heart. After running around in circles for years and meeting so many people, we still managed to find each other. And we even got married. This is fate. Hubby is my absolute destiny. Hearing Seraphina's inner thoughts broadcasted loud and clear, you slowly reached out and gently patted her head. I really should have recognized you so much sooner, you murmured softly. Then, we never would have gotten to the point of almost signing those divorce papers. Hearing the regret in your voice, Seraphina tilted her head and gave you a reassuring, breathtaking smile. As long as we don't divorce now, everything is going to be just fine. Yes, she cheered inwardly. It is finally time for a sweet, disgustingly romantic married life with my hubby. Just thinking about all the romantic possibilities, the goofy smile tugging at the corners of her mouth grew wider and wider. But suddenly, realizing this totally broke her usual Ice Queen persona, she frantically reined in her facial expressions, forcing it all down. Seeing her struggle so hard, you couldn't help but chuckle. Actually, Thorne's description of my ideal type wasn't exactly accurate. That was really just me talking smack with the guys. There is absolutely no need to force yourself to act a certain way, just to cater to me. I just want you to be your true, authentic self. After all, we are going to be together for a lifetime. He wants to be with me for a lifetime, her mind screamed in pure joy. We are actually going to be together for the rest of our lives. Seeing Seraphina finally drop the cold act and reveal a genuinely bashful, radiant smile, you couldn't help but smile right back at her. You didn't know if it was just the cold medicine kicking in, but you noticed a heavy sleepiness washing over Seraphina's face. Gently, you told her to head back to the bedroom and rest up, while you rolled up your sleeves to cook an absolute feast. By the time dinner was completely ready, Seraphina still hadn't shown a single sign of waking up from her deep slumber. It was only after you lightly knocked on the bedroom door to wake her that she finally shuffled out, yawning cutely and rubbing her groggy eyes, just as you were walking out of the kitchen, carrying a massive, mouth-watering pot of fragrant soup. Seeing the spread, Seraphina quickly trotted over, plopped down, and took a huge sniff. Wow, it smells incredible. My husband is seriously amazing. Wow. Seraphina, she praised herself inwardly. You are just so ridiculously lucky. Hearing her adorable inner monologue, you scooped up a large bowl, handed it over, and gave her a warm smile. Here, drink some more. Then, there is plenty more left in the pot, but before you could even finish your sentence, Seraphina had already snatched the bowl and started chugging it down. So delicious! Oh my God, it's so good. The girl's tired eyes instantly lit up with stars. Looking at this version of Sarah, who was the complete, utter opposite of her usual cold, aloof CEO image, you just smiled dotingly. Slow down, Tiger, you laughed softly. Just take your medicine one more time after this, and you should be right as rain. Listen closely. Downing too many pills is just going to ruin your health. Hearing this, Seraphina nodded, like a perfectly obedient angel. On the outside, she looked completely cooperative, but her inner voice was screaming something entirely different. Oh my God, as long as my hubby feeds it to me, I will gladly swallow absolutely anything. Honestly, even if hubby gave me a toxic poison that turned me into a total brainless dummy, I would still drink every last drop. The very next morning, this fiercely devoted woman drove you straight to the university. When it was time to part ways, she clung to the steering wheel, looking completely heartbroken to leave you. She mumbled softly, I am going to try my absolute hardest not to work overtime today. Can you please wait for me so we can eat dinner together tonight? Hearing those incredibly sweet words, you just smiled warmly and gave her a nod. Her inner voice instantly exploded with joy. Yes, 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 from now on, I get to have a ridiculously sweet dinner with my hubby every single day. He feeds me a little bite. Then I feed him a little bite. Oh my gosh, our relationship is taking a massive leap forward. Out loud, she just softly whispered, bye-bye. Thinking about all those romantic scenarios, she felt way too embarrassed to actually say them out loud, so she could only scream it passionately in her mind. Bye-bye, hubby. I love you so much. As those soft words left her lips, Seraphina quickly fired up the engine, speeding off and leaving behind nothing but a fading flash of red tail lights. Seeing Sarah's incredibly cute, almost obsessive behavior, you honestly could not help but break into a huge smile. You quickly checked the time and marched confidently toward the university's exam hall. After all, today was the day, your absolute final graduation exam for the entire law department. When you finally pushed open the front door and got home later that evening, Seraphina had miraculously prepared 3 massive, mouth-watering dishes and a hot bowl of soup. She was sitting right there, patiently, waiting for you at the dining table. After you sat down, grabbed your fork, and took that very first bite, you instantly gasped in total amazement. Wow, this is actually my very first time tasting your cooking. I honestly had no idea your culinary skills were this incredibly good. Her inner voice squealed, hee hee. Oh my gosh, I actually got praised. Out loud, she modestly replied, I just learned it from a random app on my phone. Honestly, watching the video tutorial made it look pretty simple. Seraphina smiled with a beautifully bashful, shy expression. Seeing this rare side of her, you returned a very faint, calm smile on the surface. But deep down, your heart felt an overwhelming mix of tender sweetness and a tiny bit of guilt. It was just so hard to imagine the normally elegant, coldly aloof lawyer Seraphina using her delicate, slender fingers to bravely fight through thick cooking fumes in the kitchen, all just to learn how to cook for you. Almost as if she could magically hear your exact thoughts. Seraphina blinked her gorgeous eyes playfully and said, well, it is totally fine, especially since you finally crushed your exams today. Do you want to drink a little wine together to celebrate? Hearing this tempting offer, you couldn't resist throwing a playful tease right back at her. Wait a second. You are not planning to secretly drug my drink with something crazy again, are you? She gasped. What? How is that even possible? Seraphina instantly shot back in defense, but her cheeks involuntarily flushed a deep, burning shade of red. Hubby is being so incredibly mean to me, facing Seraphina's absolutely devastating puppy dog eyes. Your only defense was to surrender, walking over to the fancy wine cabinet to pick out a nice bottle. Meanwhile, she literally cheered out loud and practically sprinted to the kitchen to grab 2 glasses. To set the perfect romantic mood, Seraphina even took the time to specially trim a handful of fresh red roses, bringing them over to place in a beautiful glass vase right on the dining table. You just sat there, quietly checking the time out of the corner of your eye. About 10 or so minutes later, the two of you clinked glasses and finally took that warm, satisfying first sip of wine. And hey, maybe it was the quick rush of the alcohol. But Seraphina was acting exceptionally talkative and bubbly today, completely dropping her usual icy guard. Oh my God, let me tell you what happened. Today, I had this absolutely crazy client who literally started a full-blown fistfight with someone else right inside the mediation room. I swear, nobody could even stop them. It literally scared me half to death. It got so chaotic that, eventually, we had to call in the big security guards to break it up. You just sat there, silently watching Seraphina speak with such wildly animated, passionate expressions. Her hands were constantly gesturing in the air. With the corner of your mouth raised in a gentle smirk, you played the role of the perfect, serious listener. Then, feeling a wave of protectiveness, you paused and asked, "Wait, did you get hurt at all?" "No way. I am super sharp," she bragged. The very second that crazy fight broke out, I instantly dodged and hid safely over to the side. But this one poor male lawyer standing right next to me actually tried to play hero and stop it, and he inexplicably got smacked right across the face. I kid you not, his cheek was completely swollen red for the entire afternoon. Seraphina smugly lifted her little chin, looking somewhat fiercely proud of her survival skills. Hearing this ridiculous story, you just stared at her, totally caught between bursting into laughter and crying for that poor guy. Right at that very moment, Seraphina gently swirled the dark red wine in her glass. She shot you this incredibly intense, expectant look and softly said, "Hey, do you maybe want to come check out our law firm tomorrow?" That highly unexpected sudden question definitely caught you off guard for a quick second. Seeing your slightly stunned expression, Seraphina panicked and quickly added, "I mean, just for a quick little visit." After hesitating for a tense moment, you finally gave in and nodded. Her mind instantly screamed, "Yay! Step 1 of my master plan is a massive success. Going to work and getting off work, hand in hand, acting all sweet together with my hubby, is just right around the corner." Instantly, you replied utterly speechlessly in your own heart. All right. So, this is exactly the sneaky little game we are playing now, huh? And so, the very next morning, you actually followed Seraphina straight into her prestigious workplace. Perhaps it was simply because she was finally back in her deeply familiar, high-stakes working environment. But she suddenly appeared exceptionally confident and ruthlessly composed. She radiated this intense, invisible aura of a fiercely strong and independent boss woman. "Our law firm really isn't too bad, right?" she asked smoothly. "Do you maybe want to come work at our firm? Because then, we could be together every single day." Instantly, the corner of your mouth curled upward into a very subtle, almost imperceptible smirk. But right at that dramatic moment, a sharp-looking middle-aged woman suddenly marched straight toward the two of you. "Lawyer Lena, an important client specifically requested your presence. She is already waiting for you inside the main conference room." Hearing this strict order, Seraphina gave a curt, professional nod. Snapping instantly back into her cold, hardcore work mode, she looked extraordinarily mature, powerful, and dangerously charming. But the absolute second she turned back to look at you, she put on a completely different, shockingly sweet face. "Could you please go wait and sit in my private office for just a little bit?" she pleaded with a ridiculously soft, gentle voice. Just like that, you strolled right into Seraphina's private office. The entire room was spotlessly clean and highly organized. But right there, sitting proudly on her pristine desk, was your official marriage registration photo. You reached out, picked up the framed picture, and took a long, quiet look at it. Instantly, the corners of your mouth raised into a genuinely warm smile. Honestly, the picture wasn't even taken very well at the time because the whole situation was just way too ridiculously rushed. You both ended up smiling so stiffly and awkwardly, looking completely fake. As you stood there completely lost in a nostalgic daze, your deep thoughts were suddenly violently interrupted by a sharp knock on the office door. You paused, thought for a quick second, and calmly replied, "Please, come right in." Before I even knew it, a stunning woman with flawless makeup strutted right into my line of sight. "Are you Lawyer Lin?" she asked. "Nope, I'm not," I replied. "I'm waiting for her too." She looked me up and down. "Oh my, what a gorgeous guy." "You know what? It's fine. All lawyers are exactly the same anyway. My dad specifically recommended Lawyer Lin, but I could easily switch to you instead." Without missing a beat, she closed the distance between us. Realizing she was one of Seraphina's clients, I kept things strictly professional, politely pouring her a glass of water and handing it over. But her gaze just grew bolder. "Working a job like this, your salary can't be all that high, right? It's incredibly tough to put down roots in a massive city like this. The litigation fees for my case are huge. Do you want a piece of that?" I hadn't even spoken 2 full sentences to her before I felt it, her high heel brazenly sliding up and down my pant leg. I instantly stepped back, my eyebrows knotting together in disgust. "Whoa, what exactly are you doing?" But before she could answer, I turned and saw Seraphina standing in the doorway, her face like absolute ice. How dare this tramp hit on my man right in my own office? And she didn't even close the door. Ugh, wait, that's not the point. The point is she's openly flirting with my husband. Why? Her inner voice screamed. Even I haven't gotten to flirt with him like that yet. Snapping out of her glaring, Seraphina cleared her throat loudly. Startled, the woman glanced at her. Oh, are you Lawyer Lin? Seraphina just gave her a freezing, deadpan nod. After a brief and totally icy exchange, the client shot me one last shameless wink, then swayed her seductive hips and strutted right out of the room. As soon as the coast was clear, Seraphina marched over and gave me a gentle, annoyed shove. I just stood there completely dumbfounded, acting oblivious. Hey, what's wrong? I asked, pretending I had no idea. Seraphina didn't say a word. She just huffed, stormed over to her desk, and aggressively plopped down into her chair, pouting like crazy. She shot me a glare. You're just out here attracting all the wrong kind of attention. I threw my hands up in total innocence. I didn't even do anything. I seriously want to lock him away so only I can look at him. Only I get to love him, her thoughts echoed. Hearing her adorable inner voice, I couldn't help but smile. I casually strolled over to the bookshelf, picked out a random file, and started flipping through it. Wait, why isn't he coming over to comfort me yet? She thought. I could feel Seraphina getting increasingly frustrated by the second. Finally, she gritted her teeth, stressing every single syllable. I am incredibly jealous right now. I froze for exactly 2.5 seconds, then looked up and gave a flat. Oh, I looked back down at the file, acting completely casual as I dropped the bomb. Good thing my whole world revolves around Sarah. Then, her ears instantly flushed a deep bright red. Oh my God, he is way too good at flirting. I'm melting. Listening to her panic, I kept my head down, a massive smirk tugging at my lips. You focus on your work first, I told her. We'll make hot pot together when we get home tonight. I settled comfortably onto the sofa to read, while Seraphina softly replied, okay. A sweet, giddy smile slowly creeping onto her face. He actually remembered that hot pot is my absolute favorite. He's just too perfect. I knew it. Our feelings are completely mutual. Later that night, I was standing in the kitchen prepping all the hot pot ingredients, while Seraphina just lingered nearby, staring at me with goofy, heart-shaped eyes. For some reason, right in that split second, a massive wave of affection swelled up from the very bottom of her heart. You really are the absolute best, she thought. Suddenly, she threw her arms wide open and charged straight at me right while I was holding a heavy bottle of aged black vinegar. Sheer panic flashed across my face. Whoa, stop, stop. Wait a second. But before I could even brace myself, she completely crashed into my arms. The impact sent me stumbling backward, barely keeping my balance. Thank God I never skipped leg day, my stance held firm. I clicked my tongue in disbelief. Holy crap, Sarah, could you be a little more rational? But the scolding died on my lips as I felt her soft, warm curves press tightly against my chest. She nuzzled her head comfortably into the crook of my neck, letting out soft, rapid breaths against my skin. I was never a rational person to begin with, she murmured. Her breathing was incredibly fast, like her heart was beating out of her chest from sheer nerves. With us pressed so closely together, our heartbeats completely synced up. Suddenly, the whole vibe shifted, and I felt my own face getting hot. I'm just really happy right now. As her warm breath tickled my ear, an overwhelming urge to comfort her took over, and I found myself gently stroking her hair. The air between us grew thick with this heavy, wildly romantic tension. But right at that magical moment, our dog, Barnaby, trotted into the kitchen and started excitedly doing zoomies around our ankles. He tilted his goofy little head, staring up at us with innocent confusion. My mouth twitched into an awkward smile. Do you want to let go now? We're corrupting Barnaby's innocent eyes. Seraphina reluctantly peeled herself off me, shooting our clueless dog a seriously resentful glare. Stupid dog. A few minutes later, as I finally set the steaming hot pot down on the dining table, her sweet inner voice chimed in again. Hot pot, hot pot. He made it just for me. We really do have a total telepathic connection. Talk about a match made in heaven. Seeing her face light up, you couldn't help but crack a natural smile. But hold up a second. Let the pot boil a bit more. Then we can dig right in. Saying this, you stood up, grabbed a pitcher of freshly squeezed iced orange juice from the fridge, and poured her a glass. Seraphina took the glass with both hands, tilted her head back, took a long sip, and let out a deeply satisfied sigh. You even have my absolute favorite freshly squeezed orange juice, and it is perfectly iced. Hubby is just too good to me. I have absolutely no way to repay him, except by offering my body in return. I really hope hubby won't reject me tonight. Hearing that wild inner monologue, the corner of your mouth twitched hard. Your own wife was actively plotting against your purity. Once the hot pot finally started boiling, Seraphina snatched up her chopsticks, grabbed a juicy beef roll, took a delicate bite, and instantly lit up with shocked amazement. Oh my gosh, so good! This is way better than any hot pot restaurant outside. Facing her clearly over the top, exaggerated hype, you immediately let out a chuckle. Come on, it's not that amazing. But Seraphina's eyes turned dead serious. Hubby's cooking is literally the #1 best in the entire world. Stop trying to gaslight me. Don't even think about sweet-talking me just so I cook delicious meals for you all the time, you teased with a sly smile. The moment those words slipped out, Seraphina frantically shook her head. No, 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 that is not it at all. It actually just tastes incredibly delicious. And I am someone who absolutely hates lying, right? Wait. You definitely don't like lying. Why does it feel like hubby is totally mocking me right now? It must be an illusion. Yeah, definitely just an illusion. Following that internal panic, Seraphina's eyes grew exceptionally determined. I have never liked lying to begin with. Hearing this bold claim, you just nodded. The next second, you reached down to pet Barnaby at your feet, gently rubbing his neck. Then, you just smiled, without saying a single word. Ah, maybe it is not an illusion after all. Could it be? He actually discovered the collar. Instantly, Seraphina pouted her soft lips, feeling suddenly depressed and thoroughly defeated. After the feast, Seraphina obediently cleared away all the leftovers from the table. Then, huffing and puffing with effort, she scrubbed all the pots and pans clean. Originally, you wanted to step in and help, but she completely shut you down. She insisted that doing all the cooking was already hard enough on you. She demanded you let her handle the cleaning all by herself. A family needs to learn how to share the burden. That is the only way they can go the distance. Seeing Seraphina lay it out like that, you had no choice but to lie back comfortably on the sofa, petting the dog, and flipping on the TV. Once Seraphina finally finished her chores, she obediently squeezed in right next to you to watch TV together. But her eyes kept nervously drifting toward you from time to time. I really want hubby to join our law firm. How on earth should I bring it up to him? Will hubby hate the idea? I mean, I would be his boss. At work, I am the strict boss, but after work, I am just his obedient little puppy. Honestly, that actually sounds pretty amazing. After stewing on it for a while, she finally opened her mouth. Hey, if you pass the exam, which law firm do you want to work for? Seraphina's voice was incredibly soft, carrying a heavy hint of nervous probing. Hearing this, you thought seriously for a moment before replying, I haven't decided just yet, but I definitely want to go to a major law firm. After all, a bigger platform means way more room for development, and I would get my hands on all kinds of cases. Then, would you consider Kongshin Law Firm? Right now, it is literally one of the top firms in H City. We handle all sorts of cases. Seeing your gaze deadlocked on the news, not replying for a dangerously long time, she sneakily scooted her 2 gorgeous legs right up close to you. The very next moment, you were absolutely stunned to feel a smooth, beautiful foot pressing right against you. She was still wearing her silky stockings, and it was incredibly slippery. As Seraphina's little foot deliberately rubbed against you bit by bit, it honestly felt like she was coming for your very life. What exactly is this woman trying to do? Meanwhile, her mind raced. Will hubby like my little feet? Even though Seraphina's inner voice was insanely provocative, her actual words remained exceptionally serious and strictly professional. I know you definitely want to rely entirely on yourself, but before you get your official lawyer's license, you cannot take cases independently. You must have a mentor to guide you. As her words fell, her soft body slowly leaned heavily against yours. Instantly, the intoxicating scent of her body wash completely filled your senses. The next second, your entire body stiffened up unnaturally. Wouldn't it be nice if I were your mentor? Seraphina's wide, innocent eyes blinked up at you. This kind of older sister mentor. Would hubby be into it? Even though her warm breath falling against your face felt dangerously ticklish, you forced yourself to pretend that your heart had absolutely zero fluctuations. Let's just wait until the exam results are officially out. Now be a good girl. Sit still and watch TV. Defeated, Seraphina finally had no choice but to straighten her posture, pouting her tender pink lips with a deeply resentful, adorable expression. Hubby is so bad. How on earth could he remain completely unmoved? Do I seriously have absolutely zero charm? Watching her completely spiral into dramatic self-doubt, a casual, knowing smile finally crept onto the corner of your mouth. Suddenly, Seraphina grabbed your arm with both her small hands, gently shaking it back and forth. Her tone shifted into a soft, whiny, and completely irresistible plea. Please come to my law firm, okay? Facing a gorgeous older sister's face and a breathtaking older sister's body, yet harboring the inner heart of a completely soft, just a super cute, incredibly clingy little girl. You just slowly raised a skeptical eyebrow, standing your ground and coldly maintaining that you were going to wait until the actual results were out. Instantly, Seraphina completely deflated, slumping onto the living room sofa like a popped balloon. She pouted hard. Hubby is just so mean. Hubby is completely and totally immune to any kind of sweet persuasion. Before you even realized it, the night had dragged on and it was getting pretty late. You casually glanced up at the clock, hanging on the wall, stretched and flatly announced you were heading back to your room to finally get some sleep. However, the very second your hand pushed open that bedroom door, you suddenly froze in your tracks, pausing for a tense, silent moment. You turn your gaze to Seraphina, flashing an unbothered smirk. Kungshin is pretty legendary in the industry. I will seriously consider it. Dropping that line, you just push the door open and stroll right in. You casually click it shut behind you, leaving Seraphina standing there completely wide-eyed and frozen in shock. Whoever said hubby was immune to a little persuasion? Oh yeah, hubby is absolutely the best. He is hands down the greatest hubby in the whole wide world. Meanwhile, back in the bedroom, you completely collapsed onto the bed, squeezing your eyes tightly closed in sheer disbelief. Your mind was entirely hijacked by the image of Seraphina gently teasing you with her foot, that gorgeous, flushed face of hers playing totally coy. Some kind of mentor she turned out to be, huh? Honestly, that wasn't totally off the table. The very next day, the two of you hit up the law firm together once again. But this time around, there was no grand tour. Seraphina marched you straight into a secluded conference room without missing a beat. Someone was already waiting inside, chilling at the table. And wouldn't you know it, it was a very familiar face. Yep, it was the exact same bombshell who was playing footsie with you under the desk in Seraphina's office before. She was still rocking her usual drop-dead gorgeous outfit, with her makeup done to absolute perfection. The second she laid eyes on you, a predatory spark lit up her gaze, though she kept her words strictly directed at Seraphina. Lawyer Lin, I have been waiting for you for a while now. Seraphina gave a curt nod, and just like that, the two women dove deep into the nitty-gritty details of the case. You just grabbed an empty chair in the corner, sat down, and carefully studied the unfolding situation. About 30 minutes dragged by until a sudden knock on the door broke their intense focus. Lawyer Lin, Lawyer Guo needs to see you for a moment. Hearing that, Seraphina hesitated, glancing back and forth between you and her sultry client. Finally, she sighed and said, "Hold that thought for just a second. I will be right back." Without another word, she spun on her heels, pushed the heavy door open, and stepped out of the room. But the absolute second the door clicked shut, the woman's whole vibe changed, her eyes locked onto yours, practically dripping with a hungry, undeniable desire. She slid seductively into the seat right next to you, sighing, it's so hot in here." With that, she reached up and slipped off her jacket, revealing a pair of smooth, bare shoulders. Then, she lazily fanned herself with one hand while slowly crossing her legs. With a soft clack, her high heel suddenly slipped to the floor. A moment later, her bare little foot slid right onto your calf. Oh my. Did I kick you? Does it hurt? You weren't having any of it. In a flash, you stood right up, your voice dripping with impatience. "What exactly are you doing?" "I'm just apologizing," the woman purred, batting her seductive eyes. Giving you a deeply provocative look, she teased, "This is just my little foot's way of saying sorry." "You're Lawyer Lin's assistant, aren't you?" You stared at her deadpan and replied flatly, "No, I'm her husband." "Wait, what?" The woman completely froze, instantly shuddering in absolute panic. She had only wanted to flirt with the cute young assistant, completely oblivious to the fact that she was actually hitting on her own lawyer's husband. Scrambling backward, she practically threw herself into her original seat, frantically tugging at her revealing top while offering a horribly awkward, forced smile. Right at that moment, Seraphina walked back into the room. Her eyes immediately landed on the client jacket off, cleavage out, dressed like a walking scandal. Naturally, her imagination instantly ran totally wild. The very next second, Seraphina shot you a lethal, jealous glare, silently accusing you of attracting every stray bee and butterfly in the room. Hearing her mental accusations, you were utterly speechless, screaming your absolute innocence entirely inside your head. After the two women quickly wrapped up their discussion about the case and agreed on their next steps, the client prepared to leave. But before heading out, the woman leaned in close to Seraphina and whispered, "Your husband is seriously handsome." Seraphina scoffed internally. I don't need you to tell me my hubby is hot." But then she froze. Wait a second. How did she even know he's my husband? Seraphina sneakily glanced over at you, the corners of her lips instantly curling upward. Hubby actually took the initiative to tell another woman that I'm his wife. Later, after clocking out, the two of you were walking home side by side. Totally lost in a daze, Seraphina's tiny hand kept mysteriously brushing right up against the back of yours. I really want to hold hubby's hand, she screamed internally, but in reality, she just kept nervously lifting her little hand, desperately wanting to grab yours, only to chicken out and pull it right back every single time. Listening to her adorable mental struggle, you couldn't help but find the whole thing incredibly sweet. Just as she finally mustered up the courage and opened her mouth to say something, you beat her to the punch. You suddenly reached out and firmly grabbed Seraphina's little hand, intertwining your fingers tightly. Hubby is actually holding my hand, she mentally squealed. Instantly, she looked down at your locked fingers and began happily swinging your joined hands back and forth, tilting her head to give you the brightest, most radiant smile. Just remembering her soft, delicate cheeks burning bright red, you couldn't even stop yourself from cracking a smirk. Fast forward to the very next day. You were completely laid back, happily hugging Barnaby, downing an ice-cold cola, and just zoning out to the TV. But suddenly, your phone started blowing up. The exact second you hit answer, Thorne's ridiculously loud, insanely excited voice completely blasted through the earpiece. The exam results are out. Didn't you check? I passed. Hearing her excitement, you froze for a second. Oh, man, I totally forgot. I haven't checked yet. I checked for you, she laughed. You got the absolute highest score in the class. Oh, well, you smirked. Just my usual flawless performance then, you cocky jerk. With a playful scoff, she hung up, leaving a steady beep, beep, beep echoing in your ear. Getting the top score put you in an incredible mood. You were totally ready to treat yourself to an amazing dinner tonight. But around 5 p.m., you were just kicking back on the couch watching TV when the front door clicked open. A second later, Seraphina burst into the living room, her arms loaded with shopping bags. Get over here, she beamed. I bought a bunch of new outfits for you. Fingers crossed, they actually fit. Hearing her sweet voice, you blinked in surprise before a warm smile spread across your face. They look awesome. Really awesome. Let me go try them on right now. But, hey, what made you want to buy me clothes? You asked, feeling a sudden deep warmth spreading right through your chest. Well, didn't Thorne tell me you absolutely crushed your qualification exam? She winked. I definitely had to get my guy some sharp new clothes to celebrate. With Seraphina practically bouncing with excitement, you pulled off your t-shirt, getting ready to slip into a crisp white button-down. Wow, how is his body this insanely good? You heard her inner voice squeal. Hubby's abs are to die for. The muscle definition is seriously out of this world. Seraphina was secretly losing her mind over your physique, making the corner of your mouth twitch as you tried not to bust out laughing. By the time you finished modeling every single outfit, Seraphina had snapped 1 million photos on her phone, acting like your personal paparazzi and loving every second of it. The next day, you decided to return the favor. You rushed to the mall, picked out a gorgeous, flowy white dress, and grabbed a massive bouquet from the florist. The second Seraphina walked through the door that evening, her eyes locked onto the fresh lilies sitting on the table. Instant, pure joy lit up her beautiful face. Are these for me? She whispered, gently picking up the bouquet to take a sweet sniff. In that exact moment, time seemed to stand still, framing her perfectly in the soft evening light. You were completely spellbound. Seeing how ridiculously happy such a small gesture made her, your heart gave a sudden, tender ache. All for you. Do you like them? You asked softly. Without missing a beat, she smiled brightly. I love them so much. Oh, and there's a gift to go with it too. It wasn't crazy expensive, but just wait until I land a real job. I promise I'll spoil you rotten, you said gently, nodding toward the designer shopping bag resting on the counter. Seraphina carefully opened the bag, pulling out the elegant white dress. Her eyes shimmered as she stepped right up to you. Suddenly, she threw her arms wide open and demanded, hugs. Right now, immediately, this exact second, I demand to be hugged. Hearing the desperate, adorable demand of her inner voice, you didn't hesitate. You reached out and wrapped your arms tightly around her slender waist. Instantly, your senses were overwhelmed by her warm, intoxicating scent. It smelled so incredibly good, the kind of dizzying fragrance that leaves you hopelessly addicted. As long as it's from you, she murmured softly against your chest, even if it was just a random weed from the sidewalk, I would treasure it forever. With a glowing smile, Seraphina finally let you go, practically skipping toward the bedroom to try on her brand new dress. But right as she turned, your gaze accidentally drifted downward, catching sight of the collar on her thin white button-down shirt. She was only wearing that one sheer layer, and the top button had carelessly slipped entirely undone. From your angle, you caught an absolutely perfect, heart-stopping glimpse of her cleavage. Right at that exact second, Seraphina snapped her head back towards you. "Hey, are you staring at my chest?" You froze. The corner of your mouth twitched, and your ears instantly burned bright red. God, why did this feel exactly like getting busted reading a dirty magazine by your high school homeroom teacher? But while you were still completely dazed, Seraphina suddenly pushed you backward, making you stumble and crash right onto the sofa. "Want to test the texture?" Her inner voice teased. "If it's my hubby, he totally gets a free pass." Damn, Seraphina, you were getting bolder and bolder by the day. That's right, keep staring just like that, claiming my hubby is just around the corner. Hearing her bold thoughts, your eyes practically bugged out of your head. But against all logic, your hands instinctively started reaching up for her. Yet, before you could even make a move, Seraphina beat you to it, boldly sliding her hand right onto your abs. The second her soft fingers traced your skin, an intense rush of blood hammered straight to your head. Even your nose felt hot enough to bleed, but by the time you snapped out of it to make your counterattack, she had already darted away. "Wait, you actually touched me first?" Left totally stunned, your hands hung awkwardly in midair. "I'm gonna go try on my new dress," she giggled. Without waiting for your flustered reaction, she bolted straight into the bedroom to change. "Step 1 of how to win my hubby's total devotion," you heard her scheme. "Give hubby a tiny taste of sweetness, then snatch it right back. Keep playing this game, and he'll be hopelessly addicted before he even knows what hit him." Watching her disappear behind the door, you could only slowly lower your hands, groaning inwardly. She was totally playing you, and it was absolutely working. When Seraphina finally stepped back out, she looked breathtaking. The new dress hugged her figure completely perfectly. The elegant, long white fabric cinched perfectly at her waist, making it look incredibly delicate and slender. Her gorgeous white hair fell softly over her shoulders, cascading gracefully down her back. You were so utterly hypnotized, you physically couldn't pull your eyes away. "So, how does it look?" she asked softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, her beautiful eyes shining with eager anticipation. You paused to take her all in, then smiled warmly. "You'd look absolutely stunning in anything." "Hey, what girl doesn't love hearing the sweet, honest truth?" "Oh my gosh, hubby is praising me again." That night, just as you were heading back to your room to crash, Seraphina's eyes suddenly lit up with a brilliant idea. "I've got a massive court trial tomorrow," she said softly. "Do you want to come sit in the gallery and watch me?" Staring into her big puppy dog eyes, you figured, why not? You had the day off anyway, so checking out her trial sounded like a pretty solid plan. Honestly, it sounded like fun. Fast forward to the next morning, and there you were, chilling in the public gallery, just waiting for the legal showdown to kick off. The stakes were high, too, since the trial was actually being live-streamed all over the internet. You could hear the whispers around you. "Wait, who is this gorgeous lawyer?" "Right, she is way too stunning." Every single person in the courtroom was totally mesmerized, practically glued to her every move. And Seraphina? To look extra fierce and authoritative today, she rocked a pair of sleek, wire-rimmed glasses that screamed absolute professional powerhouse. Even though she was just rocking a crisp white button-down and a tailored black pencil skirt, it couldn't even come close to hiding her jaw-dropping curves. Meanwhile, her inner voice was completely freaking out. "Oh my God, hubby actually came to watch me. I am so nervous. What do I do?" "Pull it together, Seraphina. Calm down. It is no big deal. You handle massive events all the time." Exactly 10 minutes later, the judge's gavel dropped, and the trial officially began. You originally just came to kick back and casually admire how insanely cool your wife looked in her element. But you totally didn't expect her to ruthlessly destroy the opposing counsel's arguments, while secretly stealing thirsty little glances your way. Inside her head, she was practically swooning. "Do I look super charming when I'm working? I totally went for the mature, boss, babe vibe today. I really hope hubby likes it." Just like that, under your proud and admiring gaze, Seraphina multitasked like a queen and still totally crushed the case. But right as you were about to stand up and celebrate with her, some random dude from behind completely blocked your path. Right on cue, you overheard a bunch of law students whispering behind you. "Man, Lawyer Lynn is seriously out of this world. Seriously, watching her in court is the ultimate treat." The guy next to him just nodded, adding, "Yeah, but you gotta admit, Dudley has some serious guts. He shoots his shot every single time and gets brutally shot down every single time." Catching the spicy gossip, you could not help but stare at the guy standing right in front of Seraphina. The dude had thick eyebrows and wide eyes, giving off this gentle, nerdy scholar vibe, but he was staring at your wife like a hawk stalking its prey. Seraphina, on the other hand, was instantly annoyed. Every single time she had to deal with this Dudley guy, it drove her up the wall. He showed up at literally every single one of her trials, like a total creep. God only knows how he kept stalking her private court schedule. Just as she finished packing up her briefcase and tried to step around him, Dudley blocked her and blurted out, "Lawyer Lin, I am in love with you. Will you please go out with me?" The second those words left his mouth, the lingering crowd gasped and started whispering like crazy. Instantly, Seraphina's entire vibe shifted into absolute ice. Glaring at him with freezing, dead eyes, she snapped, "I have already told you. I am happily married." As she shut him down, she raised her slender, perfectly manicured hand, flashing the massive, dazzling diamond ring right on her ring finger. Without missing a beat, she strutted right over to you, locked her arm tight around yours, and walked away, leaving Dudley standing there, absolutely pale with rage. You had honestly just planned to sit back and see how she handled the creep. But you never expected her to march straight over, claim you, and drag you out. Her inner voice was panicking again. "Oh no, is hubby gonna think I'm a total flirt? I seriously don't get what is wrong with guys these days. They cling to me like cheap superglue. Thank God my hubby is here to protect me. That guy creeps me out every single time. His stare just makes my skin crawl." Hearing her hilarious inner monologue, you just blinked and looked down at the badass lawyer, clutching your side. Seraphina was hugging your arm tight, happily swinging it back and forth. She was clearly on cloud nine after crushing her case and dunking on the campus weirdo. "I am so happy. Time to reward myself by cuddling up and sleeping with my hubby tonight." Yep, she absolutely loved hyping herself up in her own head. You could honestly say she talks a massively big game in her mind, but acts like a totally shy, timid little kitten in reality. You could not help it. A massive smirk uncontrollably spread across your face. The two of you strolled down the hall, arm in arm, looking like the ultimate power couple. Right then, it finally hit you that literally every single person walking past could not stop themselves from doing a double take at your wife. Was your wife really this insanely popular? Having both guys and girls totally obsessed with her made sense, though. Seraphina is drop-dead gorgeous. Her figure is flawlessly amazing, and her elite, top-tier family background just gives her this commanding aura that makes everyone worship the ground she walks on. Drawing crazy stares was completely normal for her. Honestly, if you couldn't hear her secretly whining and simping in her head, you would probably feel super intimidated, too. But of course, the peace did not last. Right before the two of you could even push open the heavy courthouse doors to leave, you heard heavy, frantic footsteps rushing up from behind. Turning around, you saw him. It was that exact same creep from earlier. When she saw Dudley's face again, Seraphina's eyebrows immediately scrunched together, her gaze turning into absolute glaciers. "Ugh, so freaking annoying," she grumbled internally. "He is just so annoying. I was finally having a sweet, romantic moment with my hubby. Why is he back?" Dudley panted. "Lawyer Lin, I have one more thing to say to you." After spitting that out, his eyes violently darted over to you for a solid few seconds, basically shooting daggers and demanding you get lost. Naturally, you caught his drift loud and clear, but you firmly planted your feet. What the hell was this? Was he seriously about to blatantly hit on your wife right in front of your face? What kind of delusional fantasy was he living in? This guy had absolutely zero self-awareness, and you were about to show him exactly who he was messing with. The very next second, Seraphina scrunched up her face and snapped at him. "Look, I've already made myself perfectly clear. Back off and stop harassing me." But on the inside, she was frantically chanting, "Just leave already. Get out of here. Stop ruining my sweet romantic moment with my hubby." With a harsh glare, she tightly gripped your arm, pivoting on her heels and getting ready to storm right out of there. Seeing his target trying to slip away, Dudley desperately lunged forward to grab her arm, but you weren't about to let that happen. With lightning-fast reflexes, you stepped in and swatted his hand away. He didn't get a single inch close to her. Pulling Seraphina firmly against your side, you wrapped a protective arm around her shoulder and fired back. "Hey, we're in a courthouse. Keep your filthy hands to yourself. If you ever try pestering my wife again, I swear I'll drag you to court for harassment." Hearing those words, Seraphina absolutely froze. But a split second later, the corners of her mouth shot up into a wild, uncontrollable grin that she couldn't hide even if she tried. Dudley just stood there, completely dumbfounded. His face turned beet red with humiliation as he pitifully stuttered out, I'll just wait for you two to get a divorce. We are never getting divorced. We're going to be together for the rest of our lives." Seraphina fired back without missing a single beat, her voice dripping with absolute, undeniable certainty. Deep down, she was squealing, "Oh my gosh, he actually called me his wife. I freaking love that title." As soon as we get home, I'm going to pin my hubby right against the door and smash my lips against his. Yep, we are absolutely never getting divorced. While she proudly declared her love, you couldn't even be bothered to waste another glance on that pathetic loser. Keeping her tucked safely under your arm, you confidently walked her right out of the building. And Seraphina, after hearing your fierce defense, her face was absolutely glowing with pure, unadulterated joy. She tried to play it cool, but that massive, goofy smile on her face was completely beyond her control. Seeing her eyes sparkle as brightly as a little kid in a candy store, you just stared down at her with a deep, doting affection that lasted for what felt like hours. The moment you guys got back to the apartment, you kicked off your shoes and slid into your slippers. That's when a sudden realization hit you like a ton of bricks. The real reason Seraphina had practically begged you to tag along to court yesterday was because she was actually terrified. After all, every single time she showed up there, that creep would ruthlessly harass her. It didn't matter how many times she fiercely rejected him, that relentless stalker was always lurking in the shadows. With a heavy, helpless sigh, you gently reached out, gave her soft hair a comforting rub, and asked softly, "Hey, was that creep the reason you wanted me sitting in the gallery yesterday?" When you saw her slowly nod her head, your heart brutally twisted in your chest. Why didn't you just tell me sooner? It's totally fine. He couldn't actually try anything inside the courthouse anyway. Seraphina mumbled, her voice muffled as she stared at the floor. In her mind, she justified it. My hubby was already super stressed with his classes before. I really didn't want to drag him down with my own annoying drama. I just want to be a good wife. Besides, right now everything is perfectly fine. My hubby isn't swamped anymore, so he finally has time for me. I've got to put our little family first, too. Nothing is ever going to ruin my sweet dates with my husband. Listening to her practically convince herself that everything was fine, and watching her effortlessly invent excuses to protect your time. It was tragically obvious she was way too used to carrying these burdens alone. She must have been at her absolute breaking point with that stalker's harassment this time around. If it hadn't gotten that bad, she never would have brought you along as her ultimate shield to assert absolute dominance over that guy. God only knows how long this sweet, stubborn little dummy had been suffering in silence, entirely just to avoid being a burden to you. A bitter wave of guilt instantly washed right over your heart. Without a second thought, you grabbed her by the arm and yanked her securely into your warm embrace. Listen to me. If anything like this ever happens again, you tell me immediately. We're husband and wife. You never, ever have to hide things from me. Internally, she was melting. Oh my gosh, my hubby is being so incredibly gentle. I swear. I just fell in love with him all over again today. Then, can I kiss you? Seraphina suddenly blurted out, the words spilling past her lips before she could even stop them. Before your brain could even process her request, you watched the flustered girl shoot up onto her tiptoes. And in a fleeting, breathtaking moment, you felt her incredibly soft lips press gently against your warm cheek. Just as fast, she yanked herself away and made a frantic dash straight for the bedroom, clumsily stumbling over her own feet and nearly eating dirt on the way. Staring blankly at her retreating back, your hands subconsciously reached up to brush the exact spot she had just kissed. Your skin was practically burning. Instantly, a totally smitten, lovesick grin crept across your face. Wait a minute, you thought in amusement. Didn't you boldly declare you were going to pin me against the door the second we got home? So why did you just give me one tiny peck and run for your life? Later that evening, after the two of you had finally finished dinner, you smoothly reached out to lace your fingers through hers, casually asking if she'd be down to catch a late-night movie. Come to think of it, you two had actually never stepped foot inside a theater together. Hell, you hadn't gone on a single, proper, formal date since the day you tied the knot. Okay, so what movie are we gonna watch? She beamed, her inner voice absolutely screaming with excitement. Oh my God, I'm watching a movie with my hubby. Does this officially count as our very first date? Is today a real date? I am literally the happiest girl alive. Aloud, she asked, what do you want to watch? Seraphina tapped her chin for a brief second before confidently declaring, hubby, please don't be too scared. I am right here to protect you, so feel free to dive straight into my arms whenever the scary parts happen. Hearing her ridiculously bold claim, you couldn't help but raise a skeptical eyebrow. Right. Let's just stick to something completely harmless, like that super popular kids cartoon, Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf, you countered, silently amused by her hilarious backwards logic. I checked the reviews online, and they're actually pretty solid. Honestly, whenever you made a suggestion, Seraphina was more than happy to just go along with whatever you wanted. And so, with your incredibly cheesy movie choice locked in, the two of you quickly arrived at the brightly lit theater. Right after paying for the tickets, you abruptly told her you had to make a quick run to the restroom, turning on your heel and vanishing into the crowd. Left all alone, Seraphina obediently parked herself on the plush lobby sofa, eagerly waiting for your return. Barely 5 minutes later, you miraculously reappeared right in front of Seraphina, holding a gorgeous, vibrant bouquet of fresh flowers right in your hands. The second you gently placed that stunning bouquet into her arms, the beautiful woman looking up at you had absolutely unconcealable, sheer joy sparkling in her eyes. Wait, are these really for me? Yeah. How could a date not have flowers? As you spoke, you reached out, smoothly wrapping your arm around her waist. Why are you treating me so well today? Seraphina couldn't help but ask, her voice soft and curious. Hearing this, you smiled. Isn't treating my girl right exactly what I should be doing? Now, come on. I'm taking you to experience what normal couples do. Hearing your cheesy, smooth-talking lines, Seraphina's mental defenses instantly shattered to pieces. Her eyes practically watered up with emotion. Since it wasn't the weekend, the movie theater was pretty much empty. Taking full advantage of that, you two snagged seats in the very last row. I mean, come on, when a guy and a girl sit in the back of a dark theater, something is bound to happen to live up to a classic romantic drama plot. Just thinking about it sent wild ripples straight through Seraphina's racing heart. The back row of the theater. It's pitch black in here. If I just lean over and kiss hubby, nobody would see, right? As the movie on screen perfectly transitioned into a passionate kissing scene, the sweet, heavy tension between you two was pushed to the absolute limit. You both turned your heads at the exact same time, and your gazes crashed right into each other. Taking the initiative, you leaned in and captured her full, rosy lips. Oh, you really are a bad boy. You two kissed for a very, very long time. So long that both of your breathing started getting heavy and uneven. But neither of you could bear to let go until the theater lights suddenly flashed on. You both bounced apart like you had just been electrocuted. Turning your heads, you immediately met the deadpan, awkward stare of the cleaning lady. Honestly, you and Seraphina were definitely the more awkward ones in this situation. Oh my God. I am literally dying of embarrassment. The next second, you both jumped up in a total panic. Hastily fixing your clothes, you grabbed her hand, slipped right past the confused cleaning lady, and bolted out of the theater. Neither of your racing hearts had calmed down yet. Reaching up, you pinched the bridge of your nose, and then just couldn't hold it in anymore. You burst out laughing. Seeing this, Seraphina's face flushed a deep, embarrassed red. Hey, what are you laughing at? Hubby is such a bad boy. But man, I kind of love it. After finally getting back home, you two originally planned to pick up right where that sweet kiss left off. But out of nowhere, a sharp little puppy's bark suddenly interrupted the mood. You felt a sudden weight hit your back. Something super furry scrambled right up to your shoulder and aggressively licked your face. Turning your head, you saw Barnaby. His big, wide eyes were staring at the two of you with the most innocent, clueless expression ever. The little guy had no idea what mom and dad were doing, but he definitely wanted in on the fun. Staring at this ridiculous scene, you couldn't help but feel amused. You pulled away from Seraphina, scooped Barnaby right up, and lightly tossed the furball out into the garden to go entertain himself. You then turned your hungry gaze back to Seraphina. Stupid dog, totally ruining my good time. But just as you leaned in to continue, Barnaby immediately trotted right back inside, happily running in hyper little circles around your feet. Finally admitting defeat, you had no choice but to sigh, walk over, and aggressively rub Barnaby's furry little head. A helpless but totally doting smile tugged at your lips. Hubby, you're such a hooligan, putting your hands on everything. Seraphina's voice was deliberately teasing, carrying a soft, squishy, playful tone. Hearing that, you playfully wiggled your eyebrows at her. Keep seducing me like that, and I might just have to spank that butt. Oh, then I'd probably like it even more. Barnaby clearly wants to go out and play. Want to go take a walk together? Sure thing. Just wait for me a sec, okay? I'll go change. With that, Seraphina spun around and vanished into the bedroom. When she reappeared, she was rocking a simple, fitted short-sleeve tee and a pair of tight jeans. And, perfectly enough, when you stepped out, you had coincidentally thrown on the exact same casual outfit. Instantly, the two of you locked eyes and smiled without saying a single word. Unintentional couple outfits? Yeah, you two were definitely in sync. You quickly snapped a leash onto Barnaby, grabbing his water and some poop bags. The little guy clearly knew he was finally getting to go out and play. It made Barnaby look exceptionally excited, his tail wagging at absolute lightning speed. Seeing that Mom and Dad were still taking their sweet time, he barked a few anxious times, trying to rush you. Bad dog. First you ruined my good time. And now you have the nerve to rush me? Taking in the chaotic little scene, you just chuckled. A moment later, Seraphina naturally slipped her arm through yours, and the three of you headed out into the night. At this hour, the neighborhood was completely hushed under the night sky. The neatly lined streetlights cast warm, blurry halos of yellow light onto the pavement. The shadows of the roadside trees gently swayed, while the flowers and bushes danced in the cool breeze, creating a soft, soothing rustle. Snapping you out of your daze, a light, cheerful voice chimed in. Coming out for a late-night walk actually feels pretty amazing. If I can take relaxing walks like this with hubby every single day, then getting smothered in kisses by hubby every day is a sacrifice I'm totally willing to make. Hearing her teasing tone, you just nodded with a grin. The night breeze felt incredibly cool, brushing gently against your face and washing away all the day's tension. You felt completely relaxed. Seraphina gazed up, noticing the massive, bright round moon hanging beautifully in the vast night sky. Tilting her head, she looked at you with big, expectant eyes and softly asked, "Hubby, can we come out for walks like this all the time?" "Of course we can." About an hour later, you glanced down at your watch, noticing it was getting pretty late. Wasting absolutely no time, you dialed Barnaby right back. Then, you gently grabbed Seraphina's hand, leading the way back home. The second you both stepped through the front door, you headed straight to your separate bedrooms to wash off the day's crazy tension. By the time Seraphina finally stepped out of her room, you were already chilling on the sofa in your pajamas, casually flipping through the TV channels. But out of nowhere, she completely caught you off guard. Seraphina strolled right over and boldly sat down on your lap, making it impossible not to stare at the dangerously thin, cool silk slip dress she was wearing.